Chapter 325. Feng Zhao still remembered the dimly lit sky he had seen before he died. Actually, before the final battle, Feng Zhao had already made preparations. He had arranged everything so that if he could not hold on, Yinzhou would not be in chaos. He knew his own body well. Holding on until then was already his limit. Because he had been prepared, he had been very calm before his death. Although he had not been able to hold on to the founding era and had not been able to fulfill his youthful dream, if he could exchange this life for a new world in Yinzhou, it would be worth it. When Season 9 started filming, the atmosphere in the cast and crew was even more tense than in previous seasons. Because the plot involved historical events, filming teams from different continents had more interactions. Many actors would be receiving bento boxes for Season 9. Among them, the most important role was Feng Zhao. But Feng Zhao was not as anxious as the others. He just sat at the side of the set and stared blankly. The cast and crew considered this behavior of Feng Zhao's as a form of death in action syndrome. Hey, Feng Zhao from your cast is staring blankly again. How was he during filming? An actor from another continent asked Wu Yun. Wu Yun, who was portraying the young Wu Yin, did not leave the cast even after his scenes. He often watched other actors film and learned from them. Hearing his friend's question, Wu Yin shifted his attention away from the set and glanced at Feng Zhao, who was resting nearby. He replied, Feng Zhao's form has always been very good. Usually, it is the other actors who make mistakes. He rarely makes mistakes during filming. When Feng Zhao was mentioned, Wu Yun's expression became more complicated. Feng Zhao was younger than him. When filming had first started, he had doubted Feng Zhao's acting skills like everyone else, but after season, he had seen everything clearly. Especially the scene the day before, when he had sat on a sandy slope and gazed into the distance. That kind of gaze that seemed to have been weathered by the vicissitudes of life was something he had never been able to portray. That was the difference. That was also why he had only been able to portray Wu Yin for a short period of time and could not act like Feng Zhao for the rest of his life. At this point, even the veterans in the cast and crew could not go against their conscience and say that Feng Zhao's acting was bad. Not only was he capable, he was also willing to give it his all. There was no shame in losing to this kind of person. Hearing Wu Yun say this, the foreign actor thought for a bit and smiled. There is one more thing. Don't be angry. What? Wu Yin asked. Have you noticed that the way Feng Zhao looks at you is very strange? It's like looking at my grandson. Ha 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 ha. The corners of Wu Yun's mouth twitched. He wanted to laugh, but felt helpless. You just realized that. Sigh. I'm too immersed in my role, that's all. In my crew, there was an actor who was about my age playing my father. Didn't I still have to call him Dad? If you're too immersed in your character, you won't think about anything else. Feng Zhao did not pay attention to what others were saying about him in private. He was deep in thought. He had read the script for Season 9 so many times that he could memorize it. It was not difficult to maintain this state of mind. The music score he submitted had also passed the final review. After filming for the 8th season ended, during the holidays, he had already gone to find an orchestra to record it. There was no need to worry about that. Feng Zhao was thinking about the score that Mo Lang had shown him yesterday. It was also a small portion of the Founding Era finale. Yesterday, he and Mo Lang had been discussing the orchestration of this segment, and in his mind, he had played the various instruments over and over again. And every time Feng Zhao was so engrossed in his thoughts, the cast and crew thought that he was brewing his emotions and would not disturb him. Of course, when filming, Feng Zhao was still very engrossed and would not be distracted by anything else. When they finally finished filming the last scene, Feng Zhao got up from the floor and wiped the dust and blood off his face. He took a deep breath and exhaled, as if he had been relieved of a heavy burden. The surrounding actors had not completely recovered from the scene they had just seen. Their faces were still mournful and solemn. One of the older actors came over and gave Feng Zhao a tight hug. He patted Feng Zhao's shoulder vigorously. You acted well. Feng Zhao hugged the surrounding actors as a form of farewell. After the actors dispersed, Director Bai walked over and asked Feng Zhao, How do you feel? Do you feel very relaxed? Feng Zhao replied with a smile. Director Bai, who had been about to say solemn, swallowed the words he had been about to say. When he took a closer look at Feng Zhao, he realized that Feng Zhao's previously oppressive aura and the vicissitudes of life seemed to have vanished in an instant. Now, standing before him, even without removing his makeup, gave off a completely different feeling. His slightly stooped back due to his injuries and age was now straight, and his eyes were more energetic. Seeing that Feng Zhao seemed to have left his character, Director Bai was relieved. But according to convention, he still had to remind Feng Zhao, remember to make a trip to the psychologist. Even if there is nothing wrong, you still have to get a statement from them. Got it. Thank you, Director Bai. Feng Zhao went to remove his makeup and change out of his costume. He took a shower and changed into a clean set of clothes before heading over to the psychologist. Psychologist Dai Yu was currently in his office, munching on melon seeds. Actors were under a lot of pressure. Psychologists like him, who helped actors adjust their mental states, were also under a lot of pressure. Munching on melon seeds was also a method he used to reduce stress. As soon as he heard that someone was coming over, Dai Yu hurriedly put away the box of melon seeds, wiped his mouth in front of the mirror, sprayed some odor-cleansing spray, tidied up his appearance, and adjusted his facial expression to an appropriate level. In front of actors, psychologists like him still had to maintain the airs of an expert. They couldn't possibly let the actors who were coming over know that they munched on melon seeds when they had nothing better to do, right? That would ruin their image. Who knew? They might even question the professionalism of this psychologist. After tidying up, Dai Yu sat there with a straight face and let the actor waiting outside come in. Seeing that it was Feng Zhao, Dai Yu changed his attitude and became more casual. Oh, it's you? As he said that, he looked at Feng Zhao with a bewildered expression. You look different today. Is it time to collect your lunchbox? Yeah, just finished filming. Feng Zhao closed the door and sat down on a chair opposite the table. To ensure the privacy of actors, psychologists didn't necessarily have a video recording. They would follow the wishes of the actors. If the actors were willing to record the conversation, they would turn on the recording mode. If not, they wouldn't. Most actors weren't willing to do it. It was the same for Feng Zhao. Dai Yu rather approved of Feng Zhao's choice. He was also at ease. Everyone had become familiar with Founding Era since filming had started. Dai Yu didn't hold back in front of Feng Zhao. He pulled open the drawer, took out the box of melon seeds, and started munching on them. Seeing Feng Zhao looking at him, Dai Yu explained, it's to relieve stress. Doctors are also humans, not gods. Don't tell others when you go out. MHM, want some? Dai Yu pushed the box of melon seeds to the middle of the table. No thanks. Your current state is much better than before. Previously, you gave me the feeling that you were in danger. I almost put you in the high-risk category. But now, Dai Yu's gaze swept up and down a few times. It's still all right. The degree of danger has been slightly reduced. Then I'll have to trouble you to issue a certificate. Sure. Dai Yu quickly issued a certificate to Feng Zhao, certifying that this actor's mental state was no longer in danger and that he could leave the cast at any time. With the certificate in hand, Feng Zhao didn't continue watching the other party munch on melon seeds. Dai Yu watched Feng Zhao's departing figure and thought to himself, this guy is really quite interesting. It's hard for others to break away from their roles after filming, but this guy just had to break away so quickly. It seems like he's not as dangerous as when he first arrived, but it still feels a little weird. But Dai Yu couldn't figure out what was weird. Who cares? Dai Yu continued munching on melon seeds. Feng Zhao's mission was over, but Dai Yu still had a lot to do. On the other side, after Feng Zhao left Dai Yu's place, he headed for the cafeteria. He still had to collect his own bento box. However, when he saw his own bento box, Feng Zhao fell silent. Placed in front of him was a super huge bento box that looked like a steamer basket, stacked 10 times. This is... Feng Zhao looked at the chef in charge of handing out the bento boxes. The chef smiled amiably and somewhat pityingly. This is the last bento box. Every portion is extra large. It will definitely fill you up. Are you misunderstanding something? Feng Zhao asked. No need to be embarrassed. Here, this was specially prepared by our cafeteria for you. Uncle, I like people with good appetites. Being able to eat is a blessing. Here, it's not easy to carry. It's a little heavy. Do you want to eat here? I'll bring it back. Please pack it up. Feng Zhao didn't want to be surrounded by onlookers as he ate his bento box. There were already some cafeteria staff looking over curiously. Many actors who came to the cafeteria had already taken out their equipment and were waiting to film the scene of Feng Zhao eating this big meal. After the chef finished packing the super huge bento box, he said, "Let me find someone to help you carry it over." "No need, I can carry it myself." Watching Feng Zhao easily carry the huge bento box and walk steadily, the chef even lamented, "Hey, this young fellow is really spirited. No wonder he can eat 8 bento boxes." Feng Zhao felt that this 8 bento box incident would probably be hard to explain. On the way back, Feng Zhao could not avoid being surrounded by onlookers as he carried such a huge object. "Feng Zhao, what is this?" an actor asked. "Bento box." "Bento box?" "Cough that, hurry up and go back to eat. The food won't taste good if it's left in the box for too long." The actor watched as Feng Zhao carried the huge bento box away and felt a sense of respect. He turned around and secretly took a photo. It wasn't time to go online, but there was a local area network. They had internal communication groups and could share information with friends. Feng Zhao could eat 8 bento boxes? That was all in the past. Did you see that? Extra large, 10 layers. Feng Zhao lost count of how many people stopped him on the way back. When he finally returned to his dormitory, he remembered that great-grandfather Feng had specifically reminded him to take more photos of the last bento box. Feng Zhao took a few photos of the bento box. Feng Zhao did not feel too emotional when he saw the bento box. He finished his photo shoot and ate. As he ate, Feng Zhao received a call from Zero. "Feng Zhao, I heard you got a bento box today?" Zero sounded like he was in a good mood. "Immerse, what's up? Come out and have some fun." "I'm saving up for a meal to celebrate you finally getting a bento box." Zero's agent sighed when he heard this. "Aren't you afraid of offending people with these words? Can't you be more tactful?" Those who were narrow-minded would probably think that Zero was gloating over their misfortune. "No rush. Everyone is busy filming. There's no need to make time for this," Feng Zhao replied. "What are they busy for? Who doesn't know each other? It's not like they're acting in some important role. They have plenty of time." Actually, Zero was not really in a rush to celebrate with Feng Zhao. He was just afraid that after Feng Zhao left the cast and crew, he would not be able to save up for a meal to show off. He had made a killing by hyping up garlic. Now he was also a successful person. He still remembered that he owed Feng Zhao a meal. After ending the call with Feng Zhao, Zero flipped through his contact list and confirmed the name list for the meal. Those few important ones can't be forgotten. There's also that Wu Tianhao and that Barbara. Forget it, I don't want Barbara anymore. 2 days ago, Zero and Barbara had been exchanging blows. It was annoying to watch. After making calls and setting up a time, Zero had a smug look on his face as he pondered how to show off when the time came. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked his agent, "I heard that Wu Tianhao is also partnering with others to hype something. Hey, what did you say we were going to hype next? Don't lose to him." Zero's agent replied calmly, "Don't worry. They are probably going to hype Ginger. Nowadays, there are a lot of people speculating, and they don't make much money. We won't walk the same path as them." "Then what should we hype?" "Ginger's cousin, Wild Ginger." "Why is Wild Ginger's cousin?" "That's not the main point. The main point is that our plan has already been set. Don't tell anyone." Chapter 326. Since Zero wanted to treat Wu Tianhao didn't stand on ceremony. Everyone knew that Wu Tianhao had made a killing by selling garlic. As a result, Wu Tianhao had brought a few more people over to eat. Although Zero said it was to celebrate Feng Zhao receiving his bento box, who didn't know Zero's character, wasn't it just to show off? Because Zero had said he could bring along a few more people. Feng Zhao had brought along G. Poland and a few other young actors from the same company. Now that G. Poland and the others had had enough of playing extras, they were about to leave the cast and return home to start all sorts of promotions to raise their popularity. Feng Zhao also took the opportunity to invite them over for a meal before they left. He wanted to use this opportunity to get to know more actors from other continents. As for Zero, he only had a manager with him. Zero had originally wanted to bring a few more actresses from Lijo, but had been dissuaded by his agent. Of course, whether it was Wu Tianhao's entourage or Feng Zhao's entourage of Ji Polin and company, they all understood that they were just there to serve as foils. They were just there to eat and listen to the two young masters Wu Tianhao and Feng Zhao brag. When the other side got excited, they would join in to liven up the atmosphere. This time, Zero had made a reservation at a large restaurant in the gourmet food city. As soon as he entered the private room, Ji Polin and the others behind him widened their eyes. Stepping on the soft carpet with an ancient aristocratic style was like stepping on the clouds. There was also a large chandelier in the style of an ancient palace, a crowded and brightly colored classical decorative painting, a variety of strong artistic displays, and shiny silverware on the table. I don't think this store used to have this style of decoration, Ji Polin whispered. It's newly renovated. Another person sniffed and said in a low voice, My God! Wu Tianhao, who had just arrived, scanned the interior with disdain. I heard that the nouveau riche nowadays like to decorate their houses in this style. Looks like Zero is prepared to boast this time. Sure enough, when everyone gathered, Zero's face was flushed with success. Before even entering the door, he was already laughing heartily. It couldn't be helped. Whenever Zero thought about his little treasury, he would feel a sense of accomplishment. If he didn't show off, he wouldn't be able to calm down. He specially contacted the owner of this restaurant and rented this private room. The rent wasn't cheap, but he was now rich. After 2 rounds of drinking, the atmosphere at the table became more casual. Zero kept bragging, and Wu Tianhao followed suit. Neither side was willing to give in. Ji Polin and the others, who had been brought here as background characters, had the same idea, to exchange contact information with the other actors. More friends meant more options. Furthermore, Ji Polin would definitely be expanding globally in the future and would not be limited to Yenzhou. Feng Zhao had brought him over this time to take advantage of this opportunity to expand his network. Feng Zhao was talking to Zero's agent. They had worked together before and might work together again in the future. Actually, Zero's agent was very grateful to Feng Zhao. Zero's opportunities had only happened because of Feng Zhao's matchmaking. Disregarding everything else, just the speculation about garlic had been indirectly caused by Feng Zhao. It was precisely because Feng Zhao had suggested that Zero use his sense of taste to aid his performance that every time he watched the Lijo chapter of Founding Era, he felt that it was a smelly video. Zero's agent couldn't help but shiver as he recalled the despairing scent he had smelled. However, in terms of film and television investment, he would not give up. He wanted to dupe Feng Zhao into starring in the next historical drama they were investing in. Following the birth of the series Founding Era, restrictions on films and television related to the period of destruction would be lifted. In the future, there would surely be more and more films and television series set during the period of destruction. At the very least, the popularity of Founding Era would not decrease for the next 2 years. Feng Zhao rejected. Zero's agent did not give up and continued persuading. You can think about it some more. There is no rush to reply. We can negotiate the remuneration. As he was speaking, he suddenly heard a shout. Feng Zhao! Wu Tianhao walked over with a bottle of wine and poured Feng Zhao a glass. Come, let us brothers have a toast. That trash Zero can't do it. Beside him, Zero was already a little drunk and had to stop bragging. When it came to alcohol tolerance, Zero still could not compare to Wu Tianhao. Wu Tianhao had also drunk too much and was not as calm as usual. Feng Zhao, you sure have it easy. We still have to continue being background characters. Sai, when we earn enough money, we will invest in a series. I will be the lead. When the ban on historical dramas from the period of destruction is lifted, I want to make 8 or 10 series about that famous general of our Tongzhou's Wu family. As he spoke, Wu Tianhao glanced at Feng Zhao, his eyes full of sympathy. That one from your Feng family is pitiful. Based on my many years of experience in the entertainment circle, either no one will film him, or a few people will film him blindly. In any case, Feng Zhao died early and has no descendants. There are few disputes. Fang Zhao twirled his wine glass with his fingers and did not say anything. You have to believe me. Wu Tianhao belched. When drunk, he was especially talkative and did not have any misgivings. That Fang Zhao person, what a pity. If you ask me, he is still not ruthless enough. Tell me, if there was no founding era, who would remember that Fang Zhao? Of course, I'm not talking about you. Wu Tianhao patted Fang Zhao on the shoulder. I am not from Yenzhou, but I know that in the first 100 years of the new era, the influence of the name Fang Zhao will probably be limited to history exams. After that, when everyone migrates to other planets, I reckon there will be no place for him in the new edition of history textbooks. Perhaps only the cemetery guards will remember this person. Tell me how much of a failure he was as a military commander. Don't you think so? Fang Zhao smiled faintly. If that's the case, it sounds like a failure. Exactly. Too much of a failure. Wu Tianhao slammed the table a few times in a furious manner. Every year, our family also sends people to the various continents to sweep the tombs. We also go to Yenzhou. The tombs of Fang Zhao and Wu Yin are the main focus, but that is a political mission. Do you know what a political mission is? That is a form of diplomacy, done for others to see. Fang Zhao got the waiter to send over some hangover soup. He poured a cup for Wu Tianhao, Zero, and the others and handed it over. Wu Tianhao, who was talking excitedly, simply did not notice that the contents of the cup had been changed. He drank it in one gulp and scoffed. This wine tastes really weird. Could Zero have bought a fake? Let's continue talking about Fang Zhao. Fang Zhao. When I was in my university politics class, I wrote about it. Among people of the same level, why did Fang Zhao receive this kind of treatment? It's fine if he died earlier than others, and it's fine if he didn't have any direct descendants, but when it comes to disciplining subordinates, he really can't compare to that person in Shizhou. Just look at Shizhou. Shizhou is home to the world's largest prison complex and is famous for its tough people. But look, no matter who takes over as Shizhou's governor, when Great General Liu Shi is mentioned, there is not the slightest bit of fake reverence and respect. That is simply like a pilgrimage. Wu Tianhao put one foot on the chair and rolled up his sleeves. If I were Fang Zhao, ruthlessly brainwash the bunch of subordinates. Then they would continue to brainwash their children and grandchildren. Endless brainwashing of their descendants. Even if this old man is no longer around, every year there will still be incense to be burned and sacrifices to be made. Let them know that in the territory that I have conquered, I am the righteous one. A bunch of little rascals. Who dares to fucking forget me? Fang Zhao, sit down. Aren't you tired of standing? Not tired. Don't interrupt me. I'm only halfway through my thesis. Let me talk about the Wu family. If I were Wu Yin, I reckon I would be so angry that I would crawl out of my coffin. When Wu Yin was around, the Wu family was so awesome. They were not the least bit weaker than the other great generals' families. Now that Wu Yin is gone, the Wu family deteriorated from generation to generation. They even lost their core position, but to be honest, we can't blame them. Our Wu family was nearly overturned 200 years ago. Luckily, we are united. No matter how we fight outside, we still have to be united at crucial times. It is too difficult to defend a continent's core position for long. Zero, who had just finished drinking the hangover soup, heard Wu Tianhao's words and quickly said, "Right. That's right. I agree with what you said. Don't your few continents have an old saying? It is easy to attack Mountain Ginger, but hard to defend it. That's the logic." The room suddenly went silent. It is easy to attack mountains, but hard to defend them. Not Mountain Ginger, an actor at the side said in a low voice. The others in the room looked meaningfully at Zero and the agent beside him. Could it be that this fellow's next step was to promote Mountain Ginger? Zero's agent took a deep breath and turned his head to look out the window. Fucking retard. The other actors in the room with a low sense of presence might be sitting obediently, but they were actually all shrewd monkeys. Zero's words had contained a lot of information for them. They had probably made guesses. Zero's agent thought to himself, "Luckily, I prepared a plan B, since Zero had already said it. Let's rope in someone else." Zero's agent looked at Wu Tianhao. who was still ridiculing the Wu family. With Zero and Wu Tianhao joining forces to promote, the effect of 1+1 was definitely greater than 2. Previously, when he had been promoting garlic, people had criticized Zero for using his status to disrupt the market. Now, he had roped in a descendant of a great general to share the burden. The label of being a descendant of a great general was both a protective talisman and a constraint. As long as he didn't go overboard and knew his limits, he would be fine. Zero's agent was pondering how to sell Zero and Wu Tianhao at a high price and didn't notice Feng Zhao glancing at him. During the meal, they listened to Zero brag and Wu Tianhao complain. They added each other as friends and got to know each other. They ate, drank, chatted, and laughed. It was quite a joyous occasion. When they were almost done eating, Feng Zhao checked the time. It was time to head back. As he got up to leave, Feng Zhao suddenly asked, Wu Tianhao, how was your final thesis for your university politics class? Retook it. Wu Tianhao got angry at the mention of this. My politics teacher actually complained to my old man. My old man gave me a beating and even warned me that if I judged leaders so carelessly again, I would. His voice stopped abruptly. Wu Tianhao froze as if he had been petrified. His legs went soft, and he supported the person beside him with a blank expression. Who am I? Where am I? What did I say just now? I seem to be dreaming about my politics teacher. My head hurts. Someone help me up. I drank too much. Let's go back and rest. Bye. When everyone came out of the private room, Feng Zhao turned around to take a look. The large dining table was filled with plates, and it was a bit messy. The plates were filled with food scraps of varying amounts, and the soup had splashed onto the white tablecloth, forming large and small circles. The setting sun shone in through the window, passing through the wine bottles and refracting a mesmerizing light. Feng Zhao closed the door and covered up the room's ostentatiousness. When he returned to his dormitory, Feng Zhao contacted Zuiyu and Yin Biao. Boss, I heard you were having dinner tonight. How does it feel? Yin Biao asked. Feng Zhao thought back to today's meal and sighed. The generation gap is really big. Yin Biao had been prepared to say something about his reluctance to part with Feng Zhao, but he hadn't expected Feng Zhao to say this. Feng Zhao had probably met some old veterans of the entertainment circle. Sigh. Those old fogies and youngsters don't get along. Feng Zhao's words were understandable. Yin Biao, who felt that he had understood his boss's meaning, didn't mention this matter again. Then we will pick you up from the cast tomorrow. After that, are we going back to the film studio complex or to the base? To the base, to pick up curly hair. Sure, I will definitely be there on time tomorrow. After setting up a time with Yin Biao and the others, Feng Zhao contacted the Y base. A transport ship had arrived at the base today, and it was still unloading. Curly hair had to work overtime. Feng Zhao didn't see any sign of that little fella during the video call, so he told the other side that he would head over tomorrow. Y base. Chapter 3:27. The next day, when Feng Zhao arrived at the base, Curly Hair was being led from the hangar. He was still wearing a custom-made military uniform. As a temporary service dog, there were dress codes, but they weren't strict. Curly Hair's military uniform was more for protection. The person holding Curly Hair was a lieutenant colonel. He had often brought Curly Hair to the ship for security checks and was considered familiar with Feng Zhao. The lieutenant colonel unbuckled the leash when he saw Feng Zhao. Curly Hair ran like the wind and pounced on Feng Zhao, wagging his tail vigorously. Feng Zhao rubbed Curly Hair's head and said to the lieutenant colonel, "Didn't you say you had to work overtime? You look rather spirited." Feng Zhao noticed some residue between Curly Hair's teeth and asked, "What did you eat before?" The lieutenant colonel holding Curly Hair replied, "A lot. Dog food, bones, and the commander's sofa." Feng Zhao's hand paused. Sofa? Cough, he isn't like this normally. He just likes to bite things when he's excited. How many have you torn down? Feng Zhao asked. 3. Sigh, it's fine. Our commander isn't angry. The lieutenant colonel laughed when he mentioned this, but didn't mention compensation. He just treated it as a joke. Oh, right. Our commander specially prepared lunch for you. It's a huge pot. I'll bring you over." The lieutenant colonel led Feng Zhao and the others inside. Feng Zhao's huge appetite had long since spread from the surrounding troops stationed around the filming crew. The lieutenant colonel even told Feng Zhao along the way, "Curly Hair's appetite has increased. Other dogs get 2 meals a day when they rest and 3 to 4 meals a day when they train. Curly Hair has to eat 6 or 7 meals a day, or he will protest." The lieutenant colonel seemed to recall something and said happily, "At first, the vet didn't recommend feeding him so many times, so he tore down the vet's chair and went on strike. Eventually, we had no choice but to try feeding him more meals for a few days. The vet didn't find any problems after examining him, so we just let him be." Feng Zhao had heard all this from the breeder, but he had just learned that Curly Hair would tear down chairs and sofas when he was angry. Seeing that Feng Zhao was silent, the lieutenant colonel thought that Feng Zhao was unhappy and hurriedly said, "Don't worry, we check their bodies every 10 days. We will definitely notice any abnormalities. Every dog has a medical record at the veterinarian, and every examination is recorded. You should have seen it. As for dismantling chairs and sofas, it's a small matter. A small matter." Actually, the lieutenant colonel was thinking that it was said that the dog was like its owner. Since the owner could eat so much, it wasn't strange that the dog could eat so much. He had even made preparations for Curly Hair to eat 8 to 10 meals a day in the future. Knowing that Feng Zhao was coming over today, Base Commanding Officer Hua especially made time to chat with Feng Zhao. In Hui's office, there were only him and Feng Zhao, as well as Curly Hair, who was lying obediently beside them. The sofa that had been torn down yesterday had been removed, and the new sofa still carried the smell of wood. "You can't bring Curly Hair away yet," Hui said. Feng Zhao narrowed his eyes. "Don't misunderstand. I'm not trying to steal your dog." Hui sighed faintly. His brows furrowed as he drummed his fingers on the desk. Then he smiled bitterly. "Some things aren't convenient to say to outsiders, but since it involves your dog, there's no need to hide it from you." He brought up an electronic file for Feng Zhao to see. This was a list of items that had been intercepted by security. Although it was only a portion, the more Feng Zhao read, the more apprehensive he became. Bombs, drugs, controlled weapons, and other items that seemed harmless but could pose a great threat when combined. There was also the smuggling of planet-wise native plants. He was even angrier. The situation here was different from Planet Baiji. Planet Baiji was going to be a future immigration planet. After the expansion of its military, it would have a strong military district. During the construction period, it would be fully managed. Furthermore, it would have a large stockpile of high-grade energy ore. However, Planet Y couldn't compare to Baiji. First of all, they didn't have enough confidence, and they still had to depend on the mood of those big bosses. When it came to the entertainment circle, Planet Y would probably go for tourism and entertainment in the future, so management would definitely be more humane. Previously, a large amount of land had been granted and the entry requirements had been relaxed to increase Planet Y's popularity, attract investors, and increase tax revenue. But now, there are more and more people coming to Planet Y, and it's getting more chaotic. Our military power is limited, and we simply can't control every place. Because of this, there are loopholes to exploit. We have already done our best to prevent dangerous goods from flowing in. Some time ago, there were actually people poaching in restricted zones. If you catch one, you'll get at least 10 years. Every place had its own rules. Planet Y might not be as unyielding as Planet Baiji, but it was still a local bully. He wouldn't allow his face to be trampled on right from the start. If he didn't strictly manage things now, without rules and restrictions, this bunch of people would be riding all over his head. Feng Zhao had also thought about the problems Planet Y would encounter in its development. He was right to tighten the controls now. Otherwise, Planet Y would definitely have a foul atmosphere in the future. Planet Y would become an entertainment and vacation destination in the future, but it wouldn't be a place where they could do whatever they wanted. Feng Zhao pointed to the electronic file and asked, "Were these all found by Curly Hair?" He shook his head. More than 60% were found by Curly Hair. The remaining 30% were found by the security machines, and the remaining 10% were found by other dogs. Speaking of this, Hui sighed even more heavily. Our newly imported security machines can't find everything. Many of them have shielding devices, and the security machines can't keep up with those shielding devices. There are even some that target dogs' sense of smell. Luckily, Curly Hair still found them. This was also something that Hui was especially satisfied with. Even though his favorite sofa had been torn to shreds by Curly Hair, he still couldn't get sick of it. We have already reported the security machines to the higher-ups. The higher-grade security machines will take some time before they can reach us. Although the dogs at the base have already grown up and can take up posts, and their training has been doubled and their results are gratifying, they still can't replace Curly Hair. Furthermore, you said that you won't be leaving Planet Y for the time being, so you can only stay at the film studio complex. Now that the film studio complex is very chaotic, it isn't safe to bring Curly Hair over. Who knows if he might be targeted? Have you heard of any cases of service dogs being murdered? You have to be on guard. It's fine if you leave him at the base. As long as you work overtime, I will leave him in my office, Hui continued persuading. I heard that he tore apart 3 of your sofas, one of which was your favorite. You still feel at ease leaving him in your office? Feng Zhao asked with a chuckle. Huh. He waved his hands. It's fine. Let him bite it for fun. Working overtime is stressful. Even dogs need to reduce stress. I can compensate for the damage to the sofas, Feng Zhao said. No need. These sofas aren't expensive. He had a magnanimous look on his face. Actually, if converted to market prices, those 3 sofas were still quite expensive. But no matter how expensive the sofas were, it was nothing compared to Curly Hair's contributions. I will bring him back today and bring him back tomorrow, Feng Zhao said. He was a little unwilling and wanted to say something, but he held it in. He also couldn't push Feng Zhao too hard. After all, Feng Zhao was the dog's owner. After leaving Hui's office, Feng Zhao didn't head straight for the film studio complex. Instead, he went to a dog kennel not far from the base. The puppies that had been shipped over from Muzhou had already grown up. When Feng Zhao went over, they were still in training. Last night, they had worked overtime to patrol the warehouse. Today, they had trained again, so this bunch of dogs were still very energetic. They were worthy of being handpicked by Muzhou. Their intelligence and stamina were top-notch. Every few days, he would gather the soldiers under his command and admonish them. Look at the dog kennel next door. Even the dogs are working so hard. How dare you guys slack off? The dog kennel's trainer was amused every time this was mentioned. He even told Feng Zhao, because Curly Hair is here, he acts as a very good guide. That's why these dogs learn very quickly. The previous few times Feng Zhao had come over, he had come and gone in a hurry. This time, Feng Zhao had time. The trainer that had been transferred over from Muzhou had specially shown Feng Zhao the results of the training of these military dogs, proving that the dogs from Muzhou's police dog academy were all elites. Originally, the trainer had wanted Curly Hair to listen to his commands and perform training demonstrations with the other dogs, but since Feng Zhao was here, Curly Hair wouldn't listen to his trainer and would only listen to Feng Zhao. After Feng Zhao left the kennel, the trainer mentioned this matter to Hui. He called over the lieutenant colonel that had been holding Curly Hair for a lecture. Didn't you say that every dog you meet loves you? You can't even coax a small dog. The lieutenant colonel hurriedly defended himself. Commander, you don't understand. Dogs are loyal, and dogs with high IQs are even harder to trick. Retired dogs from Muzhou's police dog academy. Regardless of whether they are police dogs, military dogs, or other working dogs, to gain their approval requires time. As for gaining their loyalty, who knows how long that will take. That little Curly Hair isn't even from Muzhou's police dog academy. But he's even more impressive than the dogs from the police dog academy. He's even harder to trick. That's true, Hui agreed. And I heard that Curly Hair was a stray dog back then. Feng Zhao picked him up on a black street and changed his fate. In comparison, Curly Hair is definitely more loyal to Feng Zhao. Back then, when Feng Zhao left for military service for 2 years, he didn't turn traitor. It's impossible now. Commander, believe it or not, Even if Feng Zhao asked him to swallow a bomb now, he would still do it. Oh, he clicked his tongue. Which idiot threw the dog back then? Feng Zhao took advantage of it. Elsewhere, Feng Zhao, who had returned to the film studio complex under the cover of the night, only let Curly Hair out after Yin Biao drove the car into the courtyard. Curly Hair wagged his tail and followed Feng Zhao into the house. Once the door was closed and there was no sound from outside, Curly Hair started whining. Feng Zhao understood that this little thing's gaming addiction was acting up. Yin Biao watched as Feng Zhao brought the gaming helmet into the room and reminded him, "The internet here isn't stable. It's not suitable for online gaming. You can only play single player." Got it. After Feng Zhao entered the house, Yin Biao lamented to Zuyu, "I didn't expect boss to be so addicted to gaming." Zuyu didn't find it strange. Our boss was a dark horse in the gaming circles before his military service. At that time, he was world famous in the gaming circles. He was #1 on the global individual rankings. Many people hoped that he would return to gaming after completing his military service, but after his solo concert, he ran over to acting. What a mystery. That's right, our boss's thoughts are hard to fathom. Another day passed, and it was time for the cast and crew of Founding Era to access the internet. Feng Zhao didn't use the internet to release news the moment he left the cast and crew. Firstly, the internet in the film studio complex wasn't stable, so communication wasn't convenient. Secondly, it was to accommodate the company's schedule. Yenzhou, Qian City, Silver Wing Media's gaming department. "Captain, it should be time to access the internet over there, right?" Someone asked Jinro. "Soon. There are still 2 minutes left. In a bit, everyone will go over and light the candles. This time, our Zhao God is going to post a picture of a bento box." The last time the cast and crew had access to the internet, Jinro had heard from Feng Zhao about the progress of the filming. If filming went smoothly, they should be able to see the picture of the bento box posted by Feng Zhao on the interactive platform. As members of the direct line of descent, they should occupy the most conspicuous and popular spot in the discussion section. Jinro had also informed the company's operations staff in advance to wait for him to post a comment and make it a trending topic. Don't let others beat you to it. He counted down the seconds as the page refreshed. Sure enough, Feng Zhao had already edited the picture and set it to be automatically posted. Feng Zhao received a bento box. Picture Jinro, who had been waiting there for a long time, was supposed to light a candle, but when he saw the picture of a super huge bento box, his hand trembled and he clicked like. Jinro, just as he was about to tell the operations staff to ignore that like, he saw that his comment with a huge like had rapidly risen to the top of the discussion section. Jinro, "Bro, operations, why is it so fast this time?" Jinro wiped his face and hurriedly sent a message to Feng Zhao. "Boss, listen to my explanation. I didn't do it on purpose. My hand just shook." The other members of the gaming team were still standing there in a daze. They looked at the bento box and then at Jinro. "Captain, should we light candles or like you?" "Light candles?" Jinro roared. At the same time, there was a group of netizens who had been watching the time and lighting candles for the actors who had just received their bento boxes. When they heard that Feng Zhao was also receiving a bento box, they hardened their hearts even more and decided to light a few extra candles. In the end, the biggest bento box in the entire cast and crew has been born. Like, my Zhao God is indeed a great actor. Even the bento box is a heavyweight. I was a little sad when I heard that he received his lunchbox, but when I saw this lunchbox, I suddenly laughed and cried. Let's just light a candle as usual. Awesome, my Zhao God. Even the way you receive your lunchbox is so unique. What? The crew is almost done with the 9th season? Candle. I really don't want to see it, but it's coming. Alas, what a pity for a great man. Don't worry, it's still early. The crew is filming until season 9, but online, it's only up to season 7. Like, I already knew Feng Zhao's ending during the secondary school history exam. I should have been mentally prepared after reading the Yenzhou chapter. Like, from the start of filming until now, among all the actors in the Founding Era crew who had received their bento boxes, Feng Zhao was one of the few who had received candles, and likes in the comment section of the bento boxes. Yinbei Retirement Facility. The old master and the old madam were waiting there. When the internet was connected, Fang Zhao made a long-distance call and informed him that he had finished filming his scenes. Great-grandfather Fang was very happy. "You finished filming? Doesn't that mean I can come back?" "That's great. The two of us can watch Season 9 together." Ha ha ha. Great-grandfather Fang had only laughed a few times before he was silenced by a single sentence from Fang Zhao. "I can't go back yet. The director told me not to leave Planet Y for the time being in case I can't find anyone to reshoot my scenes. Minor roles could be easily replaced by other actors, but for this kind of important supporting role, the director was more willing to find the actors themselves to reshoot. Of course, they might not necessarily reshoot. It was just a precaution to let Fang Zhao stay on Planet Y and wait. Actually, the directing team had not expected that Fang Zhao would immediately receive a certificate from the psychiatrist after finishing filming. They had been prepared to let Fang Zhao stay on the cast for a period of time and leave after filming for 10 seasons was completed. Who would have thought that this would happen? Thus, before Fang Zhao left the cast, they had informed them that he could leave the cast and crew, but he could not leave Planet Y. After all, the completion of filming wasn't far away. Mo Lang also hoped that Fang Zhao would not be in a hurry to leave for the time being. Who knew when they would need to communicate? Fang Zhao did not say much to great-grandfather Fang. Although the two elders were disappointed that they would not be able to watch Season 9 with Fang Zhao, they could understand. They repeatedly reminded Fang Zhao to pay attention to his safety and take care of himself. After the call ended, great-grandfather Fang grumbled, "Our family's little Zhao is suffering over there. Do you think a big company like Silver Wing can claim to be one of the top 3 companies in Yinzhou? They don't even have an assistant." Great-grandmother Fang said something fair. "You are wrongly accusing him. Previously, didn't little Zhao also say that he did not wish for an assistant to follow him? Furthermore, aren't there 2 bodyguards over there? What can bodyguards do? They can't be nannies. Next time, persuade him to get an assistant. Even third-rate celebrities have their own assistant group. Given little Zhao's current reputation in Yinzhou, he can't even compare to a third-rate celebrity, right?" Great-grandmother Fang agreed with the idea of getting an assistant. Great-grandfather Fang sighed mournfully when he found out that Fang Zhao might not be able to rush back to watch Season 9 with him. However, when he browsed through the discussions online, he immediately perked up. Seeing Fang Zhao's super huge bento box, the two elders were delighted. As expected of my great-grandson, even his bento box is bigger than others. Great-grandfather Fang took a screenshot of the comments online and saved the multi-angle bento box that Fang Zhao had sent over. He forwarded it to other chat groups and shared it with even more friends and relatives. A bunch of pictures were also posted in the retirement facility's internal chat group. In the entire film industry, besides our family's little Zhao, who else would receive such a huge bento box? One of a kind. It's good that you can eat. Great-grandfather Fang chuckled as he told great-grandmother Fang beside him. "This is just like me. Back then, when I was young and first enlisted on the Sirius, many people lost their appetites because they couldn't adapt to the environment on the warship. Only I ate a lot, adapted quickly, and had great strength. Sai, come to think of it, Fang Zhao is just like me." Great-grandfather Fang got more and more excited as he spoke. He patted great-grandmother Fang and reminded her, "Do you still remember? When I first enlisted, I was full of vigor and adaptability. I was even praised by the ship's captain as an example." Great-grandmother Fang smiled reminiscently. "Yes, back then, many people couldn't adapt and fell sick. The ship's captain personally came to the infirmary to take a look and happened to bump into you in a tank top and shorts while carrying your sick roommate. Ah, I knew it was then that you took a fancy to me. Otherwise, how could you remember it so clearly? Hey, you old hag, you still won't admit it." Great-grandfather Fang had a pleased look on his face. Great-grandmother Fang: "Back then, so many people fancied me. Little Zhao is so much like me. I'm sure he's very likable. It's just that he's a little boring. That's not good. He's like you." Chapter 328. Feng Zhao sent Curly Hair back to the base as promised. He could tell that Curly Hair really liked his job. After satisfying his gaming addiction, he followed Feng Zhao back to the base without any reluctance. Curly Hair was still the same when he was at Feng Zhao's side, very obedient and well-behaved. The moment he entered the base, his eyes lit up with arrogance. However, everyone at the base was happy to treat him well. Who asked him to do so many meritorious deeds? Curly Hair was still reluctant to see Feng Zhao leave the base. He threw himself into Feng Zhao's arms and whimpered. Feng Zhao felt that this little thing had been spoiled by the people at the base after serving for so long. His temper had gotten worse, and he would tear apart the sofa at the slightest disagreement. "I'll come see you in 2 days." Feng Zhao rubbed Curly Hair's head again. Now that he didn't have any filming assignments, he had more free time and could stay longer every time he came. The person in charge of taking care of Curly Hair was still the same lieutenant colonel. After Feng Zhao left, the lieutenant colonel didn't mind the dirt on the floor and sat down beside Curly Hair. "Curly Hair, do you remember what I told you? Guarding the port is protecting your master." The listless Curly Hair immediately perked up. The lieutenant colonel continued. "The next transport ship is about to arrive. We have to guard it. We can't let any danger enter. Understand? We have to guard it." Woof! Curly Hair's fighting spirit soared as he headed for the airport. The lieutenant colonel heaved a sigh of relief as he brought Curly Hair to the airport. At least he was fooled again. Elsewhere, Feng Zhao didn't have any filming assignments. He took a look at the film studio complex. It was indeed as He had said. With the rapid development of the film studio complex, there were more and more hidden dangers. He didn't care about other people's territories, but on his own turf, there were some things he couldn't touch. After supervising and reorganizing the film studio complex for 2 days, Feng Zhao turned his attention to other areas. A portion of the research base had already been commercialized. Investors needed researchers to resurrect certain species from the old era. As long as there was sufficient funding, the research institute would start. In the past, funding had been tight, so only a small number of species had been resurrected. Now that planet-wide entertainment and tourism industries were about to develop, the treatment of researchers had also improved. Feng Zhao had heard that Zero and Wu Tianhao had already joined forces to invest in the resurrection and cultivation of wild ginger. As a plant with both ornamental and medicinal value, when wild ginger was produced in bulk and stockpiled, the two of them would go into a frenzy. Every once in a while, a botanical exhibition would be held in a few newly constructed botanical gardens on Planet Y. Most of the time, it would be a floral exhibition. People who were interested could purchase flowers from those gardens. All sorts of proof of their appearance would be processed, and then they would be transported to Earth and delivered to their doorstep. Feng Zhao bought some flowers and plants for great-grandfather Feng and great-grandmother Feng that were easy to take care of. He remembered that great-grandmother Feng liked to grow flowers. Yesterday, he had heard great-grandmother Feng grumble that a few plants had died because great-grandfather Feng had watered them too much. There were also Silver Wing, Shui Jing, and a few close friends and family who would order more at a time. Feng Zhao had stayed with the cast and crew to film 9 seasons, more than a year. This was a speed that had been achieved with sufficient preparation, all sorts of technological enhancements, the actors' acting skills, and the abundant experience of the cast and crew. If this had been the old era, 1 season a year would have been unbearable. In the past 2 years, various scenic spots had appeared all over Planet Y. Feng Zhao took advantage of this relaxing time to walk around. Whenever he had inspiration, he would write it out. Long or short passages might not necessarily form a complete song, and he might not even let it appear in front of the public in the future. It might forever remain in Feng Zhao's little notebook, but this had already become a habit. In his previous life, his nerves had always been stretched taut. Only now did he have this kind of leisurely time and conditions to compose as he pleased. During this period, Feng Zhao had been called back by the director twice to reshoot some scenes. Once, he had been called over by M.O. Lang to discuss composing concepts and the arrangement of a certain score. When Feng Zhao had received the notification that the cast and crew had successfully wrapped up filming, He could hear the director and crew's relief over the comms device. Although they had only finished filming and there was still post-production to follow, this could not dampen everyone's excitement. Feng Zhao, remember to return to the cast and crew the day after tomorrow. There is a wrap-up party. The person in charge of notifying Feng Zhao left a message. Can I bring a bodyguard? Feng Zhao asked. This time around, it is not as strict as before. You can bring your bodyguard. A bodyguard, manager, or assistant is fine, but the limit is 2 people. If you exceed 2, you will have to apply to the higher-ups. Over at the cast and crew, Roman had switched from a king of hell expression to a smiling Mithriya Buddha. He was all smiles wherever he went. After filming wrapped up, he waved his hand. Wrap-up party? Done. Big party. Anyway, the investors were paying. There was no need to save for them. After filming for so long, the mood in the cast and crew had been gloomy for so long. Roman wanted to host a lively wrap-up party to change the mood. This sort of lively atmosphere would also help bring the actors out of the film. The atmosphere in the cast and crew also took a 180-degree turn. Even the crew members spoke loudly. The actors who had been scolded like quails by Roman in the past were now behaving like brothers, laughing and joking with Roman. On the day of the wrap-up party, Feng Zhao brought Zuyu and Yin Biao along. He did not have an assistant or manager, so he had given 2 spots to the 2 of them. The 2 of them were very happy to be able to join the cast and crew for free food and drinks. As soon as the wrap-up party started, the directing team took turns to give their speeches. Roman had been in a very good mood these past 2 days. He was smiling especially happily, and when he spoke, he also revealed a humorous side. After finishing his speech, he laughed and said, "Today, I even specially ordered a 10-layer cake that looks like a lunchbox." When the cast and crew saw the huge cake, they all looked over at Feng Zhao. Roman walked over unhurriedly with a wine glass in hand. "You all can tell? I got someone to make it according to Feng Zhao's lunchbox. It's big enough, right?" Hearing this, the group of people burst out laughing again. "Everyone, eat as much as you want. The more you eat, the bigger the red packet I will give him." When Roman said this, the eyes of quite a number of people lit up. They might not really care for the so-called big red packet, but it was good to leave a deeper impression with director Roman. In the future, if Roman were to helm a big film, wouldn't the chances of collaboration be greater? Roman liked people who could eat especially well. Sure, we can eat a lot too. But very quickly, everyone's gazes turned to Feng Zhao. "Feng Zhao, you don't have to participate," Roman said with a beaming smile. Feng Zhao just smiled and said, "All right." He had no intention of participating, but he knew what the others were thinking. In any case, it was hard to tear off his big eater label, and no one would listen even if he explained. An actor at the side said happily, "I'm relieved that Feng Zhao isn't participating." While the others were happily eating and drinking, Roman walked over to Feng Zhao's side. "Have you thought about how you want to develop in the future? I still plan to film a more relaxed series next year. There are a few roles in it that suit you very well. Are you interested?" Feng Zhao smiled and tactfully declined. After drinking a glass of wine with Roman, Feng Zhao explained, "You should know that I competed for the role of Feng Zhao for 2 reasons. Firstly, it was because I liked this role, and secondly, it was because I wanted to act as myself. It was fine for this role, but for other roles, I couldn't compete with other actors." Roman did not get angry. On the contrary, he was rather happy to hear Feng Zhao say this. He knew that Feng Zhao had not become muddle-headed because of a moment of fame. Being clear-headed was a good thing. He had seen too many youngsters become famous overnight and then leave dejectedly. "All right, let's work together again in the future." Roman patted Feng Zhao's shoulder, and the smile on his face deepened. "In this series, what I am most proud of is recommending you. You really made me proud, huh?" Before they had even exchanged 2 sentences, Roman was called over and forced to drink. Today, the alcoholics did not need to hold back anymore. Feng Zhao also had a few drinks with a few actors he was familiar with. Actually, among the people who had stayed behind, there were not many that were familiar with Feng Zhao. G. Poland and the others had left Planet Y after Feng Zhao had finished filming his scenes. Taking advantage of the fact that these big shots were still on Planet Y, second and third-rate actors and actresses like them had to hurry back to do publicity. Otherwise, when these big shots finished filming and went back, they would be thrown out of the limelight and would not be able to make it to the top. Feng Zhao was different from them. Feng Zhao could not be considered a professional actor, but Ji Polin and the others' main occupation was that of actors. So they had to confirm their next steps in filming and all sorts of activities in advance. There were also a few stunt actors who came over to greet Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao, we already agreed. Don't run away. When things are over with the cast and crew, let's compete on Planet Y. In the series, some of the difficult car racing scenes have been completed by stunt actors. Up until now, among the entire cast and crew of 11 chapters, the only one who had not used a stunt double or stunt actor was Feng Zhao. Regarding this group of stunt actors did not have any complaints. When they had seen Feng Zhao complete each scene, they had been impressed and had even made arrangements to race to their heart's content after the cast and crew had wrapped up filming. Anyway, Planet Y was vast and sparsely populated, so racing was perfect. Before filming had finished, everyone's thoughts had revolved around filming. They had not been able to do anything else because they had been worried about getting injured and ruining their careers. But now, they could let go. Just as these stunt actors left, another stunt double came over with a glass of wine. In the cast and crew, stunt doubles would be substituted for some difficult action scenes or scenes that required more physical strength. Stunt doubles and stunt actors might have been lumped together in any other cast and crew, but in the cast and crew of Founding Era, the division of labor was even more detailed. This stunt double approached Feng Zhao and said, "Don't misunderstand, I'm not looking to spar with you. I know I can't beat you. If I get serious, I reckon I'll be dead before I can even react." Feng Zhao did not need a stunt double, but his opponents all needed stunt doubles. Under Roman's high standards, there were many times when they had to be serious and not be too fake, so they had to get serious. And for ordinary actors, even if they had a foundation in martial arts and had received training in this area, it was still not enough. As stunt doubles for other actors, these stunt doubles had sparred with Feng Zhao many times in the series. Even if they did not fully understand Feng Zhao's strength, they had a rough understanding of it. Even if Feng Zhao went easy on them every time they filmed, they would still feel pain after each scene. They did not want to have any more exchanges with Feng Zhao. After hesitating for a few seconds, the stunt double sighed. "I just came to ask if you still lack a bodyguard." Zui Yu and Yin Biao, who were feasting and drinking to their heart's content, immediately perked up their ears and looked at the stunt double with unfriendly expressions. Trying to steal their jobs? The bodyguard quota was already full. Sensing Yin Biao and Zui Yu's repulsive gazes, the stunt double hurriedly explained, "It's not the bodyguard type. I know my own capabilities. What I meant was, do you still need the bodyguard type?" Bodyguards that followed big stars had a very high starting point. Stunt doubles like these stunt doubles were not in the range of choice for big stars, and there was no way out for them to follow a small-time celebrity. So in the end, they had chosen Feng Zhao and taken a different route. Instead of being a bodyguard, they had chosen a different type. Stunt doubles, like them, had a better understanding of the entertainment industry and were more sensitive to movements in the film and television industry. In the next 10 years, the film studio complex on Planet Y would definitely continue to expand and become even more prosperous. And not only was Feng Zhao famous, he was also one of the investors and had connections to the Y base. They could not squeeze in with other investors, but Feng Zhao was right in front of them. If they did not suck up to him now, when would they? They could not be stunt doubles forever. The peak of their careers was actually very short, and they still needed time to recover from internal injuries. If they took on too much of a burden, it would become even more difficult when they grew old. They also had a plan for their own futures. Feng Zhao thought about it. The film studio complex really needed more people. Previously, Yin Biao and Zui Yu had brought retired comrades over. Now that the film studio complex was developing rapidly, they had to keep an eye on it. Adding more people was a must. The stunt double in front of him was rather slick, but according to Feng Zhao's observations during filming, he did not have any bad intentions. Furthermore, to be able to join the cast as a stunt double, his character was not too bad. In terms of ability, even if he could not compare to Yin Biao and the others, he was still much stronger than the others. Not far away, someone called out to Fang Zhao. Fang Zhao told the stunt double, "Go and tell the two of them in detail." The stunt double's eyes lit up. Fang Zhao had not directly rejected him, so he replied happily, "Oh, sure." This was not the first time Yin Biao and Zuiyu had dealt with this sort of situation. They put down their plates and put on a straight face. "We also have our own rules. Let me make it clear first. If you think it is acceptable, we can arrange a time to meet." "Sure." The three chatted for a while. After the matter was settled, their words became much more intimate. Following Fang Zhao must be very tiring, right? The stunt double asked. Yin Biao smacked his lips, a complicated expression on his face. "You wouldn't understand." The stunt double had an "I understand" look on his face as he laughed heartily. I know the rules. I won't ask what I shouldn't ask, and won't listen to what I shouldn't know. A qualified bodyguard, even if he is just a security guard, has to remember the word confidentiality. Let's drink. No, bodyguards can't drink too much. Let's eat. Let's eat properly. Celebrities always had things that they couldn't see the light of day. Perhaps even their parents, wives, and children didn't know the other side of them. Bodyguards and drivers might be the ones who knew them the best, but as qualified bodyguards, they couldn't tell anyone about their boss's business. He had heard a lot of things during his years as a professional stunt double. However, if Yin Biao and Zuiyu knew what the stunt double was thinking, they would definitely have loudly told him, "No, that's not it. As self-proclaimed bodyguards, we can't keep up with our boss at all. We even think that we are just decorations." Fang Zhao was dragged along for drinks and photos. As long as they did not go overboard, Fang Zhao would play along. Fang Zhao drank quite a bit, but he was not too drunk. When the banquet ended, Fang Zhao was still sober, even though he reeked of alcohol. He even helped those who had not drunk much, sending drunken people back to their dormitories while he waited for the last bus. Although Fang Zhao had not been on set during this period, his dormitory had not been taken back. Besides being an actor, he still had other duties on set, so his dormitory was still there. It was getting late, so he decided to rest in his dormitory after drinking some more. After a few more buses, the banquet venue became a lot more deserted. Fang Zhao went to the restroom while waiting for the next bus. When he came out of the restroom, a tall lady in a gown came out from the ladies' restroom. Many actresses and female staff had dressed up for the wrap-up party after a few seasons of being disheveled, so their attire was really unremarkable. Her high heels clattered as she walked past Fang Zhao. When the lady noticed Fang Zhao staring at her, she frowned. "What are you looking at? Stinky hooligan." Fang Zhao laughed when he heard this. "You guys are really good at everything in this industry, King." "Big God, I was wrong." The lady, who had been acting all high and mighty just a moment ago, interrupted Fang Zhao with a face full of despair. That's right. This lady was Yinzhou's #1 entertainment reporter, the self-proclaimed king of paparazzi, Wang Tai. When the cast and crew were still filming, he had not dared come over, but now that filming was over and the military troop station nearby were not so strict, he could still sneak in. Besides him, there were other entertainment reporters who had snuck in, all scrambling to dig up news. Actually, many actors and actresses in the cast and crew knew that entertainment reporters would definitely sneak in during the wrap-up party, but they did not make a sound. They only dressed up meticulously for the banquet and were very reserved during the meal. Most actors and actresses who were drunk did not realize this. Wang Tai had gained a lot from today's banquet. He had just been in the ladies' restroom, sending a message to his disciples, telling them to pack up and move to another location. When he came out after tidying up and saw Fang Zhao, Wang Tai cursed in his heart. What lousy luck! But when he smelled the alcohol on Fang Zhao, Wang Tai could not help but rejoice. Fang Zhao had too much to drink, so he would definitely be able to fool him this time. Seeing Fang Zhao stare at him, Wang Tai could not help but curse. He had wanted to curse Fang Zhao for a long time, but he had never had the guts to do so in front of Fang Zhao. This time, Fang Zhao would probably not know, but reality slapped him in the face very quickly. Big God, how about this? After all, the wrap-up party is over. You did not see me today, and I did not see you. Everyone will be fine, okay? Wang Tai probed. Feng Zhao did not reply. Wang Tai, who was wearing a vest, saw that Feng Zhao wasn't saying anything, so he paused for a bit and flashed a nasty smile. If I were to mess up my clothes, hug you, and scream help, what do you think those entertainment reporters in the vicinity would make up tomorrow? If they really did that, would it be fake? Too fake. But was the truth important? Not at all. For many entertainment reporters, even if they knew the truth, even if they could see through it, they would just write in a way that would attract the public. As for the truth, what did it have to do with them? At most, they would apologize after the matter blew up. In any case, they had already earned some traffic. Feng Zhao flexed his fingers. Wang Tai took a step back, raised his hands, and said quickly in a low voice, "Fine, I know what will happen. In any case, it definitely won't end well. I was wrong just now. Big God, don't be calculated with me. Just treat me like a fart, and let me go." Feng Zhao. Footsteps approached. Wang Tai did not care about anything else. He put his palms together and made a pleading gesture toward Feng Zhao before leaving quickly in his high heels. Feng Zhao smiled and shook his head. Being an entertainment reporter was not easy. To protect his position as Yinzhou's #1, Wang Tai had worked hard. The next day, following the release of all sorts of selfies and candid photos from the wrap-up party, all sorts of scandals flew. True and false. Some were real, and some were made up based on photos. Wang Tai had also exposed a few scandals involving big-name actors. He had even released some scandals involving lower-level actors, but there was no news of Feng Zhao. Not even a photo, not even the name Feng Zhao had appeared. When Feng Zhao went online, he only skimmed through the news before focusing on one of them. Viewers of Founding Era were discussing, "I heard that after many historical dramas finish filming, the props and costumes will be auctioned off. Is that true? Director Roman, is it an auction? Our little treasury has already been prepared. Clothes and accessories worn by my idol. The more the better. Autographs are even better. Requesting for an auction page." Following that, Roman replied, "Not selling. A large portion of the cast and crew's costumes and props would be left behind. In the future, the filming set would be converted into a cultural park. Important props and costumes, as well as the actors' autographs, would be put on display as a souvenir. There would also be some period of destruction costumes manufactured. In the future, when the park opened to tourists, it would be rented and sold to them." 2 days later, Feng Zhao and a group of actors were called over by Roman to get their autographs on the wash costumes. Many parts of the costumes were already torn, and there were all sorts of scratches and various degrees of wear and tear, but this was the effect that the park wanted. Chapter 3:29. After filming wrapped up, the actors would return in batches according to their own work arrangements. The people in charge of post-production would remain on Planet Y for a while. Other than a small portion of actors who weren't in a hurry to return, the rest were in a hurry to return to their careers. Those who stayed weren't all related to post-production. There were also a few actors who planned to tour around Planet Y before returning. During this time, Feng Zhao raced with those stuntmen twice. The rumbling of the motorcycle and the flying dust made the blood in his body boil. Zero's eyes were burning with envy. He also wanted to join in the fun, but with Zero's driving skills, he would probably flip over the moment he started driving a two-wheeled motorcycle from the period of destruction, even if he activated the autopilot while driving a flying car. For the sake of Zero's safety and his career future, his agent had stopped Zero. Although Zero couldn't avoid scolding him, he was used to it and was as calm as still water. In the end, Zero had no choice but to ride the motorcycle and strike a cool pose for a photo. At least he could show off online and fool netizens who didn't know the truth. Perhaps they had found inspiration from racing with Feng Zhao, but after the race, the stuntmen decided to go back and suggest to a few top motorcycle companies in Immerse that they hold a large-scale off-road race on Planet Y. The competition grounds in Immerse are too crowded. In recent years, it has been getting more and more restricted. Racing can't be fun. A stuntman took off his helmet. Although he had lost to Feng Zhao again, the unbridled feeling of speeding made him very excited. Most of these stuntmen were from Immerse, and the people of Immerse seemed to have a crazy competitive gene in their bodies. They were fascinated by the pain of falling. Technology had given rise to many new competitive events, and with the passing of time, the people of Immerse had started to indulge in some ancient competitions from the old era or before. Previously, they had ridden off-road motorcycles from the old era and raced around the primitive sandy ground outside the filming area. The stuntman's eyes shone with a fanatical light. Wind and rain, lightning and thunder. Listening to the roar of the engine, breaking through the splattering mud, climbing over the steep slope, and leaping over the rocks with the car. That feeling is like an ancient knight. Honor has been bestowed upon you. Feng Zhao, I can see that you also like this sport very much and can understand our feelings. You are extremely talented in this aspect. Go to Mazhou to fight in the arena. Feel the charm of an ancient competition. It's a completely different feeling from esports. Feng Zhao, not interested. He had enough of that in his previous life. Under the disappointed gazes of the stuntmen, Feng Zhao rode his bike back to the set. After returning the bike and paying the rental and maintenance fees, he headed for the music center. There were a lot of people in the music center now. The actors and crew members who had no work to do and were waiting for the next flight back would come to the music center to watch the performances. Now, every time Feng Zhao came here, he went to see Mo Lang. Mo Lang had left him a message yesterday, asking him to drop by in the next 2 days when he was free. It was not an urgent matter, but he wanted to exchange ideas on music arrangement. Mo Lang's 10-minute finale was already 90% complete. There were still some parts that he wasn't satisfied with that needed to be edited. Once he was satisfied, it would be recorded. As Feng Zhao had also contributed to this finale, Mo Lang made Feng Zhao sign a confidentiality contract. When the time came, Feng Zhao's name would be listed as the second composer, second only to Mo Lang's. After signing the contract, Mo Lang showed Feng Zhao the complete score. This way, it would be easier for them to discuss the arrangements. Today, during his discussion with Mo Lang for half an hour, Feng Zhao's communications device rang urgently. If it wasn't an urgent matter, it wouldn't be this kind of sound. When he saw the caller, Feng Zhao's eyelid twitched. Sorry, I have to take this call first. The caller was Hui Yi. As the commanding officer of Y Base, Hui Yi would never personally contact Feng Zhao if it wasn't an important matter. And the only person on Y Base who had anything to do with Feng Zhao was Curly Hair. Feng Zhao walked over to an empty room and answered the call. Something happened at the kennel. Come over now and turn on the locator. I will get the person closest to you to pick you up. Hui Yi's voice was deep, as though he was suppressing his rage. Is Curly Hair all right? Feng Zhao asked. He's alive and kicking, just a little too agitated. Nobody can get close to him now. Come out now. We'll talk on the way. Hui didn't say much before ending the call. Feng Zhao bade farewell to Mo Lang and left quickly. Feng Zhao emerged from the main entrance of the music center. People entering and exiting the music center noticed Feng Zhao's hurried footsteps and were about to ask him about it when they heard voices of doubt. Feng Zhao raised his head and saw an average-looking flying transport land. After Feng Zhao boarded it, it left without a moment's delay. Was that a military flying transport? Someone asked doubtfully. I think it's for Y Base's internal use. It's equipped with a new power and weapon system. Usually, outsiders aren't allowed to use it, an actor who had acted in many military dramas said. He knew more about this and usually paid more attention to this aspect. So, the rumor that Feng Zhao has a strong military background is true? Otherwise, why would Y Base let Feng Zhao use such a powerful flying transport? I don't know about that, but I do see some special qualities in Feng Zhao. If it were me, I would definitely stay in the military to further my career. It would be even better if I had a background and could go even higher. Why does he want to join the entertainment circle? It's really puzzling. People in the entertainment circle had all sorts of speculations about Feng Zhao's hurried departure on Y Base's flying transport. But what most people were curious about was, did Feng Zhao really have a strong military background? Feng Zhao was in no mood to care about what the people at the music center thought as he boarded the flying transport to Y base. On the way, Feng Zhao contacted the base to understand what had happened. Previously, he had told him that curly hair might be targeted, and it wasn't nonsense. Intercepting so many goods had cost a lot of people's profits, even if the base had done their best to keep it a secret. As time went by, there would be times when they would be careless. Furthermore, the Y base's internal forces weren't a monolithic entity. After the military expansion, things would become even more complicated. There weren't any transport ships arriving today, and there weren't many security checks at the airport. In the morning, the person in charge brought Curly Hair for a walk before letting him rest at the kennel. Today, the dogs at the kennel were all resting. There weren't any training missions, and the people guarding the kennel hadn't expected that someone would dare to assassinate a dog in broad daylight. Although the other party hadn't succeeded, the soldiers guarding the kennel hadn't caught the culprit either. Then, in the blink of an eye, Curly Hair had dashed out of the kennel. The other people at the kennel locked up the remaining dogs in the kennel. The kennel assigned people to guard the kennel, while another team went after Curly Hair. That team quickly caught up with Curly Hair, but this dog had changed from his gentle demeanor to one of extreme ferocity and was barking nonstop. When Feng Zhao entered the base, he heard a dog barking. One of the kennel's feeders explained to Feng Zhao, "Ever since we found him, he hasn't let anyone get close. Whenever he gets close, he barks crazily, barks his teeth, and is on high alert. I've never seen him so fierce since he entered the base." The vet came over to take a look and didn't find any injuries. After a rough scan, the vet said that Curly Hair's internal organs and bones were fine, but because there was no way to examine him closely, he couldn't confirm if he was really fine. The commanding officer said to wait for you to come over first. If you can't calm him down, then we'll use other methods. The feeders, trainers, and the lieutenant colonel in charge of holding Curly Hair all received the same treatment. They couldn't get close. There was no choice but to wait for Feng Zhao to come over. When he saw Feng Zhao, Curly Hair quickly ran over to Feng Zhao's side and whimpered a few times as if he had been wronged. Although he didn't bark anymore, he still wasn't very friendly to others and would bark at anyone who got close. Feng Zhao reached out and stroked Curly Hair's fur. One reason was to comfort him, and the other was to check if there were any injuries on his body. "He's fine," Feng Zhao replied. He heaved a long sigh of relief. "That's good. Let the vet give him another checkup and do a blood test to prevent any drug damage." However, the vet had just taken a step closer when Curly Hair started barking again. This time, he only barked twice before stopping. However, he still stared at the vet and let out a low, warning growl from his throat, baring his sharp canines. Feng Zhao patted him lightly, and the low growl stopped. "Tell me what's going on. Just tell me what's going on," Feng Zhao said to Hui. "Previously, when I brought him over, we had an agreement. If anything happened, I would have the right to know." He took a deep breath and frowned. He raised his hand and gestured for the lieutenant colonel who usually took care of Curly Hair to explain to Feng Zhao. The lieutenant colonel gave Feng Zhao a brief explanation. It was similar to what Feng Zhao had asked on the way over. "Still haven't caught the culprit?" Feng Zhao asked. At the mention of this, Hui's face darkened even more, and he fell silent. Clearly, he was also ashamed. The lieutenant colonel's lips twitched helplessly. "The other party should be a veteran. We still haven't found the culprit. We also brought out 2 dogs that are adept at tracking, but the scent has been cut off. The surrounding surveillance cameras also didn't capture anyone, and the Sentinel system didn't issue any warnings. Based on the clues we've found, there should only be one person who opened fire." The lieutenant colonel handed Feng Zhao the results of the analysis. Although we weren't able to capture the culprit's figure, the Sentinel system recorded the sounds at the time. After filtering it, the system's analysis concluded that the culprit fired 3 shots. Fortunately, none of them hit. Feng Zhao's hand paused in the middle of stroking Curly Hair's fur. He knew that the base had definitely discovered far more than this. However, there were some things that the base wouldn't tell him even if he pressed. After some thought, Feng Zhao asked, Where did the culprit's 3 shots hit? Can I take a look at the bullets? I remember that you guys are equipped with live ammunition and not energy firearms. The lieutenant colonel looked at Hua-Yi awkwardly. Hui nodded. The lieutenant colonel continued. 3 shots, but only 2 bullets were found. One is on the ground inside the kennel, and one is near the entrance of the kennel. The last one has yet to be found. We have already expanded the range of our scan. I believe we will find it very soon. Can I trouble you to arrange a guest room? I will bring Curly Hair over to rest. He was agitated just now and is very guarded against outsiders. We will isolate him for a while and wait for him to calm down before coming out, Feng Zhao said. Sure. Hua-Yi agreed immediately this time. Send me a copy of the surveillance footage of the kennel and the audio recorded by the surrounding sentry system. The audio must be original and not processed, Feng Zhao said. The lieutenant colonel was bewildered. You won't be able to hear anything from the original audio. The culprit's gun has a suppressor. Because it is daytime, there is a lot of noise in the surroundings. Without processing, you won't be able to hear the gunshots. Feng Zhao nodded. That's it? Sure. Hua-Yi's expression was gloomy. This gloominess wasn't directed at Feng Zhao, but at what had happened today. Feng Zhao brought Curly Hair to the guest room that the base had arranged for them. This was the base's guest house where they received guests. Curly Hair followed closely beside Feng Zhao's feet. When there was no one else in the room, Curly Hair's tense body relaxed slightly and his tail wagged. Feng Zhao walked around the guest room and fished out a palm-sized object from his pocket. This was a device used to detect surveillance equipment. When there was no surveillance equipment, he waved at Curly Hair, who was scratching his back with his hind legs. Come here. The people at the base treated Curly Hair like the elite dogs from Muzhou's Police Dog Academy. They felt that their IQs were much higher than other dogs. As long as they were trained and taught properly from a young age, they could understand a lot like a 10-year-old. But they were still just dogs. No matter how high their IQ and EQ were, they couldn't compare to a normal adult. In Muzhou's history, there had been many dogs with super high IQs. During the period of destruction, the special environment had created many outstanding battle dog breeds. Muzhou's Cemetery of Martyrs had many gravestones for meritorious service dogs. But in the 500 years of the new era, even if Muzhou's dogs had inherited their ancestors' high IQs, there was still a gap. Until now, the number of dogs with high IQs could be counted on 2 hands. Every dog was Muzhou's national treasure. As for Curly Hair, Feng Zhao didn't think he was inferior to those Muzhou national treasures recorded in history. Because he was different, Feng Zhao had taught Curly Hair to disguise, hide, and be on guard against outsiders. Today, in front of Hua-Yi and the others, Curly Hair wasn't barking because of this, but because of other reasons. Feng Zhao crouched down and rubbed Curly Hair's head. There are no outsiders now. What do you want to tell me? Curly Hair whimpered and barked a few more times, as if he wanted to say something to Feng Zhao, but there was a language barrier. Feng Zhao watched as Curly Hair whimpered and whimpered. He knew that Curly Hair was trying to tell him something, but there was a language barrier, so he really couldn't understand what Curly Hair was trying to say. Curly Hair's paws scratched the ground as if he wanted to write something, but he gave up. Then he paced around in a circle. Feng Zhao watched as Curly Hair paced around in a circle and stomped his paws on the ground. If this was outside, Curly Hair would usually stomp the grass flat to prevent it from poking his, but then shit. In front of Feng Zhao, Curly Hair pulled a long strip. Feng Zhao. After Curly Hair finished shitting, he moved closer and sniffed. Then, he abruptly shrunk his neck, took 2 steps back, and whimpered softly. He looked at Feng Zhao, then at the fresh poop, and continued barking. Feng Zhao was silent for a few seconds, then got up to find a pair of tweezers. Chapter 330. This is the bullet that disappeared. Feng Zhao glanced at Curly Hair. Woof! Curly Hair barked and wagged his tail vigorously. So, at that time the sniper really did hit you? Feng Zhao asked. Woof! Curly Hair wagged his tail even more vigorously. as though he was very pleased with himself for taking a bullet. "Where did you hit?" Feng Zhao looked at Curly Hair's body. He didn't see any bloodstains, nor any obvious wounds. If there had been, what he and the others would have noticed. Curly Hair used his hind legs to scratch his back. Feeling like he hadn't scratched enough, he scratched a few more times, just like how he usually scratched an itch. Feng Zhao raised his hand and brushed aside the fur on Curly Hair's back. There was a shallow scar about the size of a fingernail. "Here?" Feng Zhao reached out and touched the scar. Woof! Curly Hair had returned to the kennel after his mission today. He hadn't been wearing his military dog uniform. There hadn't been any bulletproof protection. Feng Zhao looked at the deformed bullet that had been pulled out and then at the faint scar on Curly Hair's back. This wasn't something an ordinary mutation could explain. Even during the period of destruction, combat dogs with the strongest defenses in Muzhou couldn't be invulnerable. Many dogs had died to bullets. Feng Zhao knew the lethality of the Y military's guns. If it had been any other dog, it would have caused a penetrating wound. But this time, the bullet didn't even penetrate Curly Hair's skin and bounced off. "Then you ate it?" "Woof!" Curly Hair wagged his tail vigorously, waiting for Feng Zhao's praise. "You even know how to hide the evidence. Smart." Feng Zhao stroked Curly Hair's back. "Don't you remember what I told you to do when you encounter danger? You want to charge out and chase the enemy yourself? If you don't have that ability, you will be dead. Do you understand?" Curly Hair stopped wagging his tail and whimpered. His eyes were filled with grievance. Feng Zhao sighed and looked at the grass and dust on Curly Hair's body. "I'll talk to you about it after this is over." Feng Zhao cleaned up the dog feces on the floor and flushed it in the toilet. Then he cleaned the deformed bullet and put it away. While cleaning the bullet, Feng Zhao discovered that besides the deformed bullet, there were also traces of corrosion. Feng Zhao pondered. If this bullet was not pulled out, would it be completely digested after a long time? Could Curly Hair be an extraterrestrial dog? But when he thought about what he had found on the Black Street, he attributed it to an external cause that he didn't know about. When he first saw the surveillance at Black Street, it was at the point where all the cameras stopped working for a short period of time at his respawn point. Everything changed from that moment onwards. Before that, Curly Hair was just a weak and sick stray dog roaming the black streets. After that, Curly Hair's constitution began to strengthen day by day. Furthermore, he had never been sick, so he could eat anything. At the Muzhou farm, the other dogs had diarrhea after eating field mice, but nothing had happened to it. Feng Zhao did not know how many voles it had eaten during the time it had stayed on the Muzhou farm. Had it eaten any other animals? Although Feng Zhao's physique had clearly improved after his rebirth, he definitely couldn't resist bullets like Curly Hair and digest them. Suddenly, Feng Zhao recalled Curly Hair's medical reports from his earliest days. All along, there had been no obvious abnormalities in Curly Hair's medical reports, including those from the base's vets. Apart from a slightly higher level of heavy metals in his blood, there were no other problems. He was very healthy. Curly Hair's blood had higher levels of heavy metals than other dogs. The veterinarian's explanation was that it was because of his breed. During the period of destruction, some species had been destroyed and some new species had been created. Dogs had also mutated. On the surface, the veterinarian's explanation made sense. But Feng Zhao knew that wasn't the case. His hearing was much stronger than it had been in his previous life, and Curly Hair's sense of smell far surpassed that of other dogs. No, perhaps Curly Hair's hearing, smell, and other abilities were all very strong. Moreover, they were constantly getting stronger. Back when the world's most authoritative pet magazine, Pet, had tested Curly Hair's biting strength, the numbers had already been terrifying. But Feng Zhao knew that wasn't Curly Hair's strongest bite. Feng Zhao reached out with both hands and lifted Curly Hair up. He stared into his eyes and asked, "Have you eaten anything else you shouldn't have?" Curly Hair swayed his drooping tail timidly and averted his gaze. Seeing this, Feng Zhao knew that this little fella had definitely secretly eaten other things that exceeded everyone's expectations. No one would have thought that a puppy that looked like an ordinary pet dog actually hid such a terrifying power. At this moment, Feng Zhao's communications device rang. It was Hui. Fang Zhao, how's curly hair? What Yi asked with concern. He's calmed down, Fang Zhao replied. That's good. Come over for a bit. A portion of the Sentinel system's footage can't be sent directly to you. You can come over to take a look. All right, I'll head over now. Fang Zhao sent a message to Yin Biao and Zuiyu, asking them to head over to the Y base immediately. After sending the message, he brought Curly Hair out. Curly Hair followed closely beside Fang Zhao's feet, ignoring everyone else. He revealed a rare smile when he saw Curly Hair. You seem to be in better spirits. The little fella tends to defecate when he's nervous. He just pooped in the guest room. I've already cleaned it up, Fang Zhao said. There were traces of cleaning on the floor of the guest room. Given Hui Yi's personality, he would definitely investigate. Fang Zhao might as well say it now and dispel any suspicions. The vet who had been observing Curly Hair's condition chuckled. That's normal. It's just a type of stress reaction. Just like us humans, we tend to defecate when we're nervous. For example, when we're afraid, some people will pee while others will spit. Curly Hair whimpered a couple of times before being pressed back down by Fang Zhao. When Hui Yi and the others heard the vet's words, they had an expression that said, "So that's how it is." No wonder he seems to be in much better spirits. He's so relaxed after pooping? Pretty good, pretty good. Do you want another checkup? Hui Yi was still very concerned about Curly Hair, who had made great contributions to the Y base. The vet had just taken a step closer when Curly Hair let out another low growl. Although it wasn't as ferocious as before, it was still repulsive. Fang Zhao explained, his emotions have just stabilized. He was agitated this time, so he won't accept outsiders approaching him for the time being. Understandable. Even though he said that, Hui Yi's face flashed with disappointment. He knew that after this incident, the dog probably wouldn't be able to stay. Furthermore, Curly Hair was repulsive to them. After letting the vet leave, Hui Yi instructed his deputy to send the video and audio recordings to Fang Zhao. As a commanding officer, he had many things to do and couldn't stay here forever. After the incident with the dog sniper, he was even busier. Letting his deputy keep watch was enough. Fang Zhao watched the video seriously and then listened to the audio recordings. Hui Yi's deputy was observing Fang Zhao the whole time, especially when Fang Zhao was listening to the audio recordings. The audio recordings had not been processed, and the signal had not been amplified. From what he could hear, besides some useless static, he couldn't hear anything else. What could Fang Zhao hear more than them? By the time Fang Zhao finished listening to the audio recordings, Yin Biao and Zuiyu had also arrived. Did you bring the things? Fang Zhao asked. Yes. Curly Hair's usual bath towels, sleeping mats, dog food. Hui Yi's deputy watched as Fang Zhao's two bodyguards took out all sorts of dog products from their bags. He thought to himself, are these bodyguards or nannies? Fang Zhao then told Hui Yi's deputy, I'll bring them to the guest room to rest and give Curly Hair a bath. After returning to the guest room, Fang Zhao gave Curly Hair a bath while briefly explaining the incident with the dog sniper to Zuiyu and Yin Biao. He didn't say a word about the bullets. As he was giving Curly Hair a bath, Fang Zhao thought about the scar on Curly Hair's back. Should I apply some ointment? But when he brushed aside the dog's fur, he discovered that the shallow scar was now just a tiny mark. It was impossible to see it without looking carefully. Looks like I don't need to apply any ointment. After giving Curly Hair a bath and blow-drying him, Fang Zhao checked the floor and still didn't find a single strand of dog fur. Whether it was bathing or combing, Curly Hair didn't shed any fur. This was the same as before. Fang Zhao pointed to the dog mat and told Curly Hair, go to sleep. Fang Zhao turned to Zuiyu and Yin Biao. He was frightened this time. Let him rest well. Don't let anyone disturb him. Yes, boss, the two replied. I'm going out for a walk. You guys don't have to follow me. Yes, boss. They could guess what Fang Zhao was going to do, but they had no choice. They could only put on their standard salted fish faces and carry out their boss's orders. After Fang Zhao left, Yin Biao glanced at the snoring Curly Hair and said to Zuiyu, how does he look frightened? Zuiyu glanced over and lowered his voice. This seems like the work of a professional killer. Someone actually went to Y base to assassinate a dog. Yin Biao didn't understand why a killer who had the ability to infiltrate the vicinity of the base would take the risk to assassinate a dog. Zui Yu sneered. Our curly hair isn't an ordinary dog now. He has military merits. He guarded the cargo at the port and stopped so many people from making a living. Did you know that there's a memorial hall at Muzhou's Police Dog Academy? There are many pictures of dogs hanging there, and their honors are all second-class meritorious deeds. About half of them were murdered. You know, there's a memorial hall at Muzhou's Police Dog Academy. There are pictures of many dogs hanging there, and their honors are all second-class meritorious deeds. About half of them were murdered. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. So you got up. I think I should go out with boss. Go out for what? To hold him back? Or are you saying that you can keep up? Yin Biao shot back. He wasn't trying to dampen Zui Yu's enthusiasm, but this sort of thing was common. He also wanted to take revenge for curly hair, but he couldn't keep up with boss. Zui Yu's face was numb. Yin Biao thought of something and suddenly laughed. Actually, we can't keep up with Fang Zhao and can't protect him, but we can protect Curly Hair, this meritorious service dog. Curly Hair's meritorious service at the port has been praised by some and resented by others. Curly Hair's situation will be even more dangerous in the future. If we can't protect Fang Zhao, then we can protect Curly Hair. Isn't that like protecting a hero? We can't take our salary for nothing. Zui Yu nodded. Makes sense. On the other side, after the deputy ended the call with Fang Zhao, he reported to Hui. Fang Zhao said he wants to go out for a walk. Hui frowned. How many people did he bring? Just himself. He didn't ask us to borrow a flying transport or a MCV. Just him alone? Does he need to leave? Then what is he going out for? He was flabbergasted. The situation outside isn't clear yet. Doesn't he know how dangerous it is? The lieutenant colonel who was usually in charge of looking after Curly Hair reminded him softly. Fang Zhao performed meritorious service and killed a terrorist during his military service at Baiji. According to a friend in the military district, Fang Zhao's individual combat ability is very strong. Recalling what the deputy had said, the lieutenant colonel added, Commander, you should remember that Fang Zhao is known as Diding. During his military service, he even came over to listen to the mine. He asked us for the audio recorded by the Sentinel system at the dog kennel. He is definitely looking for clues. People like that have unusual ears just like bats. They have acoustic radar. If he wants to go out now, he might have already found some clues. He had also thought of this. After thinking for a moment, he said to the lieutenant colonel, bring some men and follow him personally. See if Fang Zhao can really find that sniper. It doesn't matter if he can't find him. It's fine as long as he can find some useful clues. If a conflict breaks out, you guys can also provide support and protect Fang Zhao. Don't blow things up. Fang Zhao had a reputation now. If something happened to him in his territory, it would be even more troublesome. The lieutenant colonel gave a military salute. Yes, I won't let you down. After the lieutenant colonel left, Hui's face was full of fatigue. We can't keep the dog. We have to make preparations in advance. Even if this incident hadn't happened, Curly Hair couldn't stay at Y's port forever. The entire Y base couldn't just dump all the burdens on a dog. If that really happened, he would be despised by the commanding officers of other bases when he attended meetings in the future. He also couldn't force Curly Hair to stay. Not only would Fang Zhao not be easy to persuade, but when he held meetings with the various commanding officers of other bases, Baiji Military District's commanding officer Shanna would stomp on his face and rub it against the ground. Thinking about this series of events gave Hui a headache. Even if contraband goods enter, as long as we strengthen the supervision and strict investigations, there will be results, the deputy consoled. Hui didn't say anything. Hui knew that the strict investigations and increased security levels had made many people unhappy. He also regretted that he had been too rash for Planet Y's development. Too much land had been approved, too many projects had been approved, and the number of people entering the country had increased. Now, it was even more difficult to control the situation. Furthermore, the sniper at the kennel used the most common standard rifle on Y base. He had also checked the recent reports of missing guns. If he hadn't checked, he wouldn't have known that many people had lost their guns. He had been so angry that he had given the various departments in charge a good scolding and demoted 2 of them. He was pondering how to rectify the internal situation when someone entered shortly after. The lieutenant colonel that had been dispatched had returned. His face was flushed, and he didn't even dare raise his head. "We lost him." Hui's knife-like gaze swept over. A low pressure permeated the room, as if a violent storm could break out at any moment. The lieutenant colonel and the deputy beside him were so nervous that they didn't even dare to breathe. Fine beads of sweat formed on their foreheads. Chapter 331. Feng Zhao went to the kennels first. The base provided unprocessed audio. Sounds from all directions, whether heard or not by normal people, formed a holographic sound field in Feng Zhao's mind. Every person and every dog's route of activity formed a clear line in his brain. The sniper's hiding spot and angle had been meticulously planned. He had probably been observing for many days. The first shot had been taken when the dogs in the kennels had finished their meal and were looking for a place to rest. Curly Hair's vigilance was very high. He had dodged the first shot before the killer had fired. Then, he had given chase and dodged the second shot. Feng Zhao walked out of the kennels until he reached a large tree. He looked at the tracks under his feet. This was the third shot. The surveillance camera had been blocked by the rapidly growing branches. The bullet had struck Curly Hair's back, but Curly Hair had only paused for a moment before continuing his chase. The base soldiers who had rushed over hadn't found any traces of the bullet, so they hadn't been able to determine the killer's exact location. Further ahead was where Curly Hair had been stopped by the soldiers piloting the flying transport. The sounds in the audio and the tracks on the ground showed that Curly Hair was very irritable. Curly Hair had been barking ever since he had been stopped and brought back to the base. Hui and the others had felt that Curly Hair was agitated, but now it seemed like Curly Hair was probably cursing. After all, he had almost caught that killer. Unfortunately, he had been stopped by the base soldiers. It would be strange if he wasn't irritable. He had sent people to follow Feng Zhao from the kennels all the way here, but not long after, Feng Zhao had ditched them. That was the extent of what the lieutenant colonel knew. Back at the base, Hui listened to the lieutenant colonel's report in amazement. The path he is walking on is the same path Curly Hair ran on. Although he had been mentally prepared, he was still amazed. That fellow Feng Zhao's ears are even better than a dog's. That's why he's called the Divine Ears, the adjutant beside him exclaimed. Really like owner like dog. Curly Hair can find completely sealed contraband. Feng Zhao can hear sounds that others can't. Curly Hair's nose and Feng Zhao's ears. I want to keep both of them. Well, he didn't hide his thoughts. If it had been anyone else, they would have done the same. Actually, if you really want to keep the dog here, you can give it a try. My grandfather once said that things that can be loaned out are not that important, and things that are truly important will not be loaned out. Since Feng Zhao was willing to lend us the dog previously, as long as we can show enough sincerity and offer sufficient conditions, Feng Zhao will surely lend us the dog again. If Commander can give him some other benefits, perhaps he will even sell the dog to us. The adjutant said. He let out a long sigh and shook his head. If it had been anyone else, he might have thought of a way to negotiate, but Feng Zhao was too difficult to deal with. Feng Zhao did not lack money and was not obsessed with power. If he had really wanted to advance in the military, he would have stayed on planet Baiji long ago. Baiji Military District treated Feng Zhao like a mascot, a treasure of the district. Wouldn't staying on planet Baiji be better than staying on planet Y? At that moment, the internal communicator rang. Southeast Garrison District? He was surprised. Commander, Feng Zhao has requested to transfer the original audio and surveillance system of Garrison District 3, southeast of the base, the other side inquired. Has he already gone over there? So fast? He was surprised. Give it to him. He said. As long as Feng Zhao could find the target, it would be fine to make things easier for him. Today, there were no drills or operations in the southeast of the base, so there was no need to keep it a secret. 5 minutes later, Commander, based on the clues provided by Feng Zhao, we have found a suspicious target. We cannot see his face, and he is wearing the uniform of a soldier from our base. We have already confirmed that the other party stole it. He is probably not from our base. The other party entered the primeval forest in front of the Southeast Garrison District 20 minutes ago. According to the relevant regulations on ecological development, other than the sentry towers, we do not have any other surveillance equipment installed. It will be very difficult to track the target. The person in charge of reporting actually wanted to say that they were poor and had limited funds. The equipment installed in the restricted zone was some old equipment. Perhaps there were still problems with the machines, and no one had maintained them for a long time, so they would not be of much use. However, for the sake of face, they could not say it so bluntly. It was fine as long as the commander understood. Of course, he understood what the other party meant and asked, "Where is Feng Zhao?" Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao said he wanted to enter the primeval forest to look for someone. He jolted. "Let him in. You all follow him. Follow him closely." "Yes." 2 minutes later, reporting commander, "We lost him." He sat in front of his office desk. His face was as dark as when his request for funding had been rejected. The lieutenant colonel standing beside him heaved a sigh of relief. Good. I'm not the only one who lost him. If we are to be crippled, we will all be crippled together. Brothers from the Southeast Garrison District, comrades who have gone through thick and thin together." The person in charge of reporting from the Southeast Garrison District asked cautiously, "Commander, what do we do now?" He really wanted to wave his hands and shout, "Search this daddy." But he knew rationally that now was not the time to send people in. The primeval forest was the primeval forest on Planet Y. Although there were no ferocious beasts like on Planet Baiji, there were still dangers. It was already late, and the number of people that the Southeast Garrison District could deploy was limited. There was no point in going in. If they could follow Feng Zhao, it would be fine. At least they would have a target route, but if they could not keep up, then forget it. He gritted his teeth and said, "Stand by." In the primeval forest southeast of the base, a dark silhouette shuttled back and forth. Bang! A snake shot out from the underbrush. The snake's head exploded, and snake blood sprayed the underbrush and tree trunks. The sound of the gunshot was not loud, and it was quickly drowned out by the sound of the snake's head exploding and the splattering of blood. In the gradually darkening forest, these sounds were clear but not abrupt. As night fell, the silhouette finally stopped. This was a person who did not have any distinguishing features. He might have been wearing a mask. Now, even if his appearance was captured by surveillance cameras, it would be very difficult to remember him. After this person stopped, he leaned against the trunk of a tree. His eyelids were slightly closed, and his breathing maintained a specific rhythm. He was so quiet that he seemed to blend in with the surrounding forest. He did not move for a long time, as if he was already fast asleep. The person who seemed to be fast asleep suddenly sneered and raised his eyelids to look in the direction of the Y base with a disdainful expression. He had thought that the Y garrison was more formidable than the military districts on Earth, but now it seemed like it was nothing much. That was right. Before Y base had become famous, it had been a small and run-down place. Species were common, and there was not much danger. In the long run, the quality of the military might not even be comparable to the military districts of the other continents. His taut nerves relaxed. He fished out a communications device the size of his palm and installed an auxiliary device. This would disguise the signal and prevent the military sentry tower in the primeval forest from capturing his signal. He was contacting someone waiting at the entertainment district of the film entertainment complex. The other party's voice was raspy and not real. Success? Failed. That little guy is rather difficult to deal with. You have to pay more. Triple the price you offered before. I won't let him get on. Otherwise, you can go find someone else. As he spoke in a low voice, he looked around vigilantly. The person on the other end of the communications device seemed to have heard something inconceivable. His raspy voice became sharp and ear-piercing. "What did you say? Failed? Aren't you, dog butcher, the #1 dog butcher? You actually failed with such a high reward? We are very doubtful of your current business capabilities." When the person nicknamed Dog Butcher heard this, anger flashed across his face, but he quickly calmed down. Since you don't believe me, then you can go find someone else. But I advise you to be quick. That dog will probably be taken away by Feng Zhao very soon. It won't stay on Y base forever. If it is taken away, then there is no need for us to spend a large sum of money to kill it. Without it, many goods will not be detected. The voice on the other end sounded very calm. Huh? Dog Butcher laughed mockingly. Really not in a hurry? Your boss is a big businessman. He always likes to nip potential threats in the bud, since he has his eyes on planet-wise development. What's wrong with spending a bit more to clear the way? You know who my boss is? The other party revealed a rare look of panic. Dog Butcher grinned, his eyes filled with greed. I more or less guessed it. 7 years ago, when you asked me to kill the so-called king of spaceports, Divine Dog, Toby, I already guessed it. But don't worry, I don't only do business with you. I never reveal who my employer is. Then you better pray that you don't get caught by the military. Nowadays, interrogation methods are endless. Huh, catch me? Are you talking about that bunch of trash? That bunch of trash can't even catch my tail. Dog Butcher's confident tone calmed the other side. Thinking about it, it did seem to be true. The people over at Muzhou hated Dog Butcher to the core. How many years had it been? Even now, they had not been able to catch him. Dog Butcher had the capital to be confident. Even if he failed a mission, it was extremely rare for people to find traces of him. The only time he had failed was about 30 years ago, when he had gone up against Muzhou's King of Dogs. Although he had ultimately killed that King of Dogs, he had been bitten by that King of Dogs. The scar on his arm had not faded, and his DNA was still on file with the police. He had not gone through surgery to remove the scar on his arm. Instead, he had kept it as a souvenir. Add more money, and I will find an opportunity to make a move. If you don't, I will withdraw now. It's not safe here. People from the base are looking for me. That little thing runs too fast and is rather vigilant. This kind of speed and vigilance that exceeds expectations might not be any worse than the King of Dogs over at Muzhou. The price cannot be calculated according to the previous price. At this point, Dog Butcher was bewildered. He had fired 3 shots. The first 2 shots had missed because of an error in his estimation, but he had already adjusted the 3rd shot. He could not understand why. Logically speaking, he should have hit that shot, but seeing that the dog was still full of energy and chasing after him, and considering the dog's running speed, it seemed like that shot had also been missed. Had his marksmanship deteriorated? Dog Butcher was very dissatisfied. He had clearly used sufficient time to adapt to the geography and climate here. Today's mission had failed. Perhaps it was because he had not completely adapted to planet-wise climate and conditions, and that dog's unexpected reaction had caused him to make an error in judgment. The next time he fired, he definitely would not miss it again. Thinking this way, Dog Butcher's tone turned cold. What's the decision? I will only wait 10 seconds. He did not wait for a reply and started counting down. 10, 9, 8. When the countdown reached 2 seconds, the other side finally agreed. You said it. Don't let that dog board the plane and leave. The other side exhorted. Don't worry. You have to believe in my professional ability. When it comes to butchering dogs, I am a professional. I have even killed a king of dogs in Muzhou. Dog Butcher smiled in satisfaction. In a short period of time, planet-wide base could not be consolidated into an iron plate. During this period, he could still find opportunities. After negotiating the price, Dog Butcher told the other side to wait for good news. After ending the call, Dog Butcher's lips had just curled up when he thought about the huge reward he was about to receive. Suddenly, his lips froze and his body shivered. Having walked the line between life and death for many years and dealing with the police and the military, Dog Butcher had long developed a keen sixth sense. In that instant, it was as if he had been locked onto by an ice-cold gun muzzle filled with killing intent. This sudden and enormous pressure made Dog Butcher's body tremble. Who's there? When did it come? A person? Or a wild beast? Why base? He, who had just closed his eyes and was about to sleep, received an urgent call from the Southeast Garrison District. Reporting, Commander. Feng Zhao dragged someone out from the primeval forest. Hui Yi's eyebrows rose. The word dragged was very subtle. Alive or dead? Hui Yi asked. If the person died, Feng Zhao might be in trouble. The target still has a single breath. That's good. Don't let him die. Personally, escort him back. Now. Yes. After the call ended, Hui Yi received a picture and image of the killer from the other end. One look and you can tell that he was dragged out of the forest with a lot of rocks and soil, like a ragged sack. His body was covered with bruises, and his face was stained with blood. When he saw Feng Zhao enter the base with the garrison district soldiers, Hui Yi jokingly asked Feng Zhao, "Impressive. Godly ears lives up to its reputation. However, I never expected that you would bring him out alive." Feng Zhao raised his eyebrows. "I am a law-abiding citizen." Hui Yi. Feng Zhao did not care whether Hui Yi believed him or not. He continued, "This person is called Dog Butcher. He's an old hand. I reckon he has business relations with people over at the film studio complex. I suggest handing him over to Muzhou. This person was involved in the murder of 2 or more Muzhou service dogs. Handing him over to Muzhou people was more reassuring than handing him over to Y base." He scratched his stubbled chin and gave Dog Butcher an admiring look. He nodded and said, "All right, that's what I was thinking too." Going through normal procedures, Dog Butcher might not necessarily die. Perhaps he might have been transferred somewhere during the process of being escorted, or he might have been silenced. But if he was handed over to Muzhou, he reckoned that would be, first a fate worse than death, and then a tragic death. To Hui Yi, he could use this opportunity to sell a favor to Muzhou and get another batch of dogs. It was a very worthwhile transaction, and Dog Butcher's fate would surely satisfy Feng Zhao. All 3 sides would benefit. Having obtained Hui Yi's promise, Feng Zhao did not stay any longer. He left Hui Yi's office and returned to check on Curly Hair's condition. Only he and his adjutant were left in Hui Yi's office. "Commander, this person Feng Zhao looks like a literary person, but I always feel that he is rather dangerous. I have a guess. And I'm saying if, the person captured was not Dog Butcher, would Feng Zhao have dragged him out alive?" The adjutant voiced his suspicions. In any case, he did not believe Feng Zhao was a law-abiding citizen. Hui said meaningfully, "There are some things that need to be stopped at a certain point. Don't think too much. Thinking too much makes you old. Look at my old face. I'm just thinking too much." How could Hui not understand what the adjutant was saying? Thinking about it carefully, since Feng Zhao had such terrifying tracking abilities and the ability to capture Dog Butcher, who had been wanted in Muzhou for so many years, why had he not chased after him right from the start? Perhaps he was worried about the dogs, but from another angle, could Feng Zhao have purposefully given that killer time to leave the base? In the vicinity, the best place to evade the military's internal investigations was the primeval forest. In the primeval forest, life and death were not restricted. Even if Feng Zhao had tracked down his target and even killed Dog Butcher in the primeval forest, as long as he denied it, who would know what he had done? Making a person disappear in the primeval forest on Planet Y was really too simple. Having understood Feng Zhao's military service records on Planet Baiji and seen some classified files, he was the same as the adjutant. He did not believe Feng Zhao's bullshit about being a law-abiding citizen. Literary person? What fucking literary person? What literary person kills monsters like they're chopping vegetables? What literary person runs into a completely unfamiliar primeval forest at night and drags out a suspect like a gunny sack? Do you think that just because you're wearing the skin of a literary person, I don't know how dangerous you are? However, when it was time to be muddle-headed, it was still better to be muddle-headed. In any case, the current situation was not bad. The corners of Hui Yi's mouth curled up, and he indicated for the adjutant to leave. He stretched his back and loosened his somewhat stiff bones before picking up his communications device to contact an old friend from Muzhou's police dog academy. Chapter 332. When the Muzhou Police Dog Academy leaders saw Hui Yi's call again, his heart skipped a beat. First, he was worried that something had happened to the dogs he had sent over. Second, he was worried that Yi would shamelessly ask him for the dogs again. "Hello, old classmate." Yi's voice rose slightly. He seemed to be in a good mood. "What's up?" The police dog academy leader was already on high alert. "Strictly speaking, we're not classmates. Comrades count, right?" "All right, let's not dwell on that. I have some news for you." "Good or bad?" "Consider it good. You say it first. In any case, don't expect me to help you get dogs again. Those few last time were already my limit." Many people objected, and I even suppressed them. "Hey, look at how petty you are. Listen first, then decide. Does this mean that you really have your eyes on our dogs?" "We caught Dog Butcher." The police dog academy leader, who had originally wanted to retort, withdrew his smile when he heard the name Dog Butcher. His fists tightened as he said solemnly, "Is this a joke?" The name Dog Butcher was a dark shadow in everyone's hearts, especially the trainers who had personally witnessed their beloved dogs being killed. How many years had it been since they got over this hurdle? I've sent you a copy of the DNA comparison results. If you still don't believe me, hurry up and send someone over to verify his identity. If it's really Dog Butcher, I can let you deal with him after I'm done interrogating him. How about that? Yi said unhurriedly. As thanks, send me another 10 puppies. I want Class 1. Impossible. Class 1 doesn't have enough puppies. After this batch is booked. At most, I can give you 2 more puppies. Let's not talk about this first. Let me ask you, did you really catch Dog Butcher? Of course. Yi's expression did not change. Hurry up and make a decision. Dog Butcher is deeply involved in certain industries. After I'm done interrogating him, I'll have to make a big move. It will definitely attract attention. When the time comes, if the person is taken away, I won't be able to stop them. I don't care what you do. You have to keep Dog Butcher for me. After the call, Yi's request for dogs was put aside. They would discuss it after verifying Dog Butcher's identity. He did not completely believe Yi's words. He did not know the specifics of the first batch. He would send someone to Y Base to take a look. If Y Base was not safe enough, he would not feel at ease sending elite puppies. These puppies were treasures in Muzhou. After some thought, the leader immediately dialed a number. Chief Officer of Muzhou. Muzhou Military Chief of Staff. An office of the Global Airport Anti-Smuggling Bureau. By the time Yi received the news, Muzhou had already organized an inspection team to head over to Planet Y. If Y Base and Muzhou join hands, it would be difficult for others to interfere. By the time they could really intervene, Dog Butcher might have already been brought to Muzhou to be executed. However, before the people from Muzhou arrived, he first had to deal with some restless people in his territory. He brought Curly Hair, Zuiyu, and Yin Biao back to the house in the film studio complex. When they arrived, it was still night. They drove a rented minibus and did not let Curly Hair show his face. Back at their own territory, Zuiyu and Yin Biao relaxed. It had been inconvenient to ask questions at the base, but now that they were back, they voiced their doubts. "Boss, why didn't you kill that Dog Butcher? He almost shot Curly Hair." Zuiyu asked. Yin Biao nodded. "Wouldn't it be easier to make him disappear in the primeval forest? If this person is too deeply involved with certain interest groups, there might be accidents along the way. That bunch at Y Base will cower when they meet someone stronger. We can't count on them to take revenge." Dog Butcher is suspected of murdering a number of Muzhou service dogs. "I request that he be handed over to Muzhou," Feng Zhao said. Hearing this, Zuiyu understood what Feng Zhao meant and chuckled. "That's right. Handing him over to Muzhou people is safer than handing him over to anyone. Muzhou people can't wait to skin Dog Butcher alive." Muzhou people also had tempers. When it came to such matters, they would make whoever made them unhappy. Sometimes, when Muzhou people were stubborn, they were like hunting dogs eyeing their prey. Even if they died, they would take a bite out of the other party. "The internet is down," Yin Biao suddenly said. The entire film studio complex, as well as dozens of newly built and under-construction entertainment districts, have all been disconnected. Zuiyu glanced out the window. "Boss, the base has started moving. The military vehicles have already arrived." Y Base had already gotten some information from Dog Butcher. Now it was time to clean things up He also had a temper. He had long wanted to find an excuse to clean things up. This time, he had a good reason to do so. The entertainment district, which had been bustling as usual at night, became tense as military vehicles drove in one by one. Seeing the troops of soldiers armed with live ammunition, everyone felt nervous as though a storm was brewing. What's going on? Is it a riot? The military. It's the Y military district. Why is it so big this time? Who is fucking courting death again? So many people have been drawn over. There were armed flying transports in the air, armored base vehicles on the ground, and squads of soldiers rushing into a few buildings. There were also a few military dogs wearing bulletproof military uniforms, specially made by the Y military district, sniffing around. In areas where the entire network was disconnected, people received a message from Y base. The gist of it was that the base had received a report and was conducting a surprise inspection of certain areas. Everyone, do not panic. Cooperate obediently and act according to instructions. Do not run around randomly. Otherwise, you might be taken away as suspects. In more serious cases, you might even be killed by mistake. Those who were drinking had best keep an eye on the drunken colleagues around them. Gunshots, screams, and explosions could be heard from the newly built district not far away. For those who had come here to make a fortune, this was destined to be a sleepless night. This time, he was very determined. He had to let those who had come to Planet Y to make a fortune know that on Planet Y, he was the supreme ruler. Nobody should even think about stirring up trouble on my turf. Get everyone to cooperate with the inspection. There is no need to be too nervous. In the future, there will definitely be more such incidents. Get used to it early. Roger that, boss. After Zuiyu and Yin Biao left, Feng Zhao walked into the room with the door closed. As expected, Curly Hair was thinking about gaming the moment he returned. Feng Zhao took out a medical kit and took out a syringe for drawing blood. Curly Hair, draw blood. The dog, who was immersed in gaming, opened his mouth and made a sound. This meant that he had heard Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao jabbed the needle in. The needle was crooked. Feng Zhao switched the needle and reached out to grab the tip of Curly Hair's ear that was exposed outside the gaming helmet. Draw blood. This time, Curly Hair's gaze finally shifted from the screen to Feng Zhao. He wagged his tail and whimpered a few times. Feng Zhao let go of Curly Hair's ear. This time, the needle went in. After drawing blood, Feng Zhao glanced at the broken needle and patted Curly Hair. All right, continue playing your game. Feng Zhao dripped the drawn blood onto a small blood testing machine in the medical kit. The analysis showed that the metal content in Curly Hair's blood had increased slightly. Everything else was considered normal. However, he didn't know if this was temporary or permanent. He would only be able to draw a conclusion after some time. After memorizing the data, Feng Zhao destroyed the blood-stained syringes and other blood-stained utensils and wiped the data from the blood testing machine. Then, he fished out his communications device and checked the messages. He couldn't contact anyone outside Planet Y, but he could still contact people within short distances. The military's search had already come to an end. They had taken away about 20 people and sealed off 2 shops that had been particularly rampant recently. The internet was only restored after the military vehicles had left the film studio complex. However, there were no reports of tonight's incident online. Feng Zhao was puzzled. That shouldn't be the case. Muzhou Military District made a statement. In Muzhou, murdering a meritorious service dog is punishable by death. Y Base also quickly made a statement. In Y, murdering a meritorious service dog is also punishable by death. At the same time, there was a video of Y Base Commanding Officer Hui. Planet Y is a beautiful planet. It is a place filled with culture, art, and sentiments. It is not a place outside the law. Our Y Base. In the video, Y Base Commanding Officer Hui was dressed in a solemn and formal military uniform. He righteously and sternly expressed his determination and attitude to protect Planet Y's order and remove this malignant tumor. All the major media outlets also reported on this matter, revealing that the operation at the film studio complex that day had not been a riot. Instead, the base military had gone to destroy a few illegal dens. That night, the two shops that had been sealed off had both been stained with contraband and had been engaged in illegal transactions. As for the celebrities that had been implicated, their careers had definitely been ruined. When Muzhou citizens heard the name Dog Butcher, they immediately erupted. Death penalty. It must be the death penalty. It would be best if it could be broadcast live. A live broadcast is not possible, but the death penalty must be carried out on our Muzhou soil. Dog Butcher? How could the death penalty be enough for this fellow? Damn, this person actually killed so many meritorious service dogs. Does he have a grudge against dogs? Those who are not from Muzhou might not understand this Dog Butcher. Come. Let me talk to everyone about this person and the dogs that must be said. A new round of heated discussions began online. However, the public did not know that the cause of this incident was a small dog that had just completed his military service at the base and a composer that had just finished performing Founding Era. Now, Feng Zhao prepared to return. Curly hair was not suited to be exposed in front of people, and no one in the cast and crew knew that he had brought a dog. Thus, he got people from the base to secretly bring curly hair from the film studio complex to the spaceport. Feng Zhao got Zuiyu and Yin Biao to guard the spaceport. Feng Zhao himself was with the cast and crew. At the airport, the cast and crew members hurriedly boarded their planes. However, those who boarded later saw a strange scene. Not far away, a group of spaceport soldiers were eagerly looking at Feng Zhao. An officer with the rank of colonel gazed at Feng Zhao with eyes full of reluctance and spoke with a sincere attitude. Sensing the gaze of the cast and crew members, the soldiers looked over. Their eagle-like gazes were so sharp that no one dared to look directly at them. However, the next moment, they turned to look at Feng Zhao with reluctance. Chapter 333. Feng Zhao belonged to the batch of cast and crew that had left late. Mo Lang had hoped that Feng Zhao would stay for a while longer to discuss arrangements, so Feng Zhao had left late. However, when Feng Zhao left Planet Y, there were still some post-production staff and some people who wanted to tour Planet Y. Mo Lang's 10-minute final work had already been completed. He had planned to call his family over to tour Planet Y's scenic spots and perhaps find some inspiration to compose. So he didn't accompany Feng Zhao and the others back. Because he had left late, by the time Feng Zhao returned to Earth, the entertainment news on every continent had already been dominated by those who had returned early. Even though Season 9 of Founding Era had not finished airing and Feng Zhao had yet to receive his bento box, the various platforms rarely mentioned Feng Zhao. The actors that had returned from the cast of Founding Era rarely mentioned Feng Zhao when they participated in all sorts of activities and were interviewed by various parties. Unless they were asked by a reporter or the host of a certain program, then they would simply say a few words and nothing more. Why would they mention Feng Zhao? Were they trying to steal news from them? They weren't stupid. Netizens were also attracted by more interesting news, and Feng Zhao, who had not been heard from in a long time, seemed to have faded out of people's attention. Now that Feng Zhao had returned, he still did not choose to make a high-profile appearance. After rejecting his company's suggestion to release news to steal the spotlight, Feng Zhao returned to Qian City to handle some matters. Back at his residence in Qian City, there was an AI robot in charge of cleaning the house. Feeding the hybrid sea slug, Spiky Rabbit, was also done by a robot. Even after leaving for so long, the house was still very clean, and the air was very fresh. It had to be said that the AI equipment had made life a lot more convenient. Sweeping, mopping, watering, fertilizing, air quality, etc. The green potted plants in the house were also growing very well. 2 of them were in their flowering period, and the flowers were tender and beautiful. That's not right. Feng Zhao scanned the room and did not see any potted plants in the other rooms that had bloomed. Most of these flowers had been left behind by Shui Jing, who had given them to Feng Zhao along with the house. But Feng Zhao remembered that there should have been 5 pots of these flowers. 2 of them had bloomed, so what about the other 3? Feng Zhao was not familiar with the newly cultivated plants of the new era, but he could compare the leaves. After a careful search, the other 3 pots with the same leaves were placed in his study. However, these 3 pots did not bloom. Although they were not dead, they were much shorter than the 2 pots in the living room. Curly Hair, who had returned home to patrol his territory, ran into the study. Seeing Feng Zhao staring at a potted plant on the study table, Curly Hair curiously stood up and sniffed. Suddenly, he paused and turned his neck towards the water tank. Woof, 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 woof. After shouting a few times, he looked at Feng Zhao and then shouted fiercely at the water tank. Feng Zhao turned his gaze to the water tank. With the AI robots feeding it at a fixed time, the hybrid sea slug didn't look any different from before he had left. It was still curled up into a ball lazily in the water tank, its entire body covered with fine, soft spikes that swayed along with the waves. It looked like a softball that was extremely harmless. Curly Hair barked even louder when he saw Feng Zhao staring at the water tank in silence. All right, I know there's something wrong with him. Feng Zhao patted Curly Hair and pulled up the surveillance footage from the study. There were surveillance cameras installed in every room in the house. Usually, Feng Zhao would turn them off when he was at home, but when he wasn't there, they would be turned on. Feng Zhao had been out filming Founding Era for a long time, and the surveillance cameras in the house had been turned on. During filming, Feng Zhao had been too busy and hadn't looked at the surveillance cameras in detail. He had only glanced at the data transmitted to him by the AI robots and knew that everything in the house was normal. Sweeping, mopping, watering, fertilizing, feeding this rabbit at a fixed time, all the programmed tasks had been completed. Feng Zhao knew that the vital signs of this rabbit in the water tank were all within the normal range, so he didn't look at it any further. Now Feng Zhao pulled up the surveillance footage from the study and filtered through the activity in the water tank. Very quickly, over 40 videos appeared. Opening the first video, Feng Zhao saw that the body of the rabbit in the water tank had started to change. It attached itself to the walls of the water tank and moved upwards. Then it lifted the lid that wasn't tightly closed and elongated. One end of its body was still attached to the walls of the water tank, while the other end stretched towards the potted plant not far from the water tank. Every leaf of that plant was the size of a duck egg. After quickly eating a leaf, it returned to the water tank and gradually turned green, the same color as the leaf it had just eaten. From a white rabbit, it had turned into a green rabbit. Sunlight shone through the study's window onto the water tank on the study table. The rabbit in the water tank had once again curled up into a ball. Its 2 ears wiggled slightly more in the water, and it looked more lively than before. It seemed to be in a good mood. Feng Zhao remembered that the breeder of this hybrid species had said that it could photosynthesize like a plant. Furthermore, it didn't even have to eat meat or vegetables. Back on planet Baiji, it had eaten the chili that Zero had tossed in. Now that it had eaten a leaf, it was naturally fine. Feng Zhao's vital signs and data were all within the normal range. What astonished Feng Zhao was that this sea slug could actually lift the lid of the water tank. Although the lid wasn't locked, opening it still required some strength. Not only that, its body could elongate and it could accurately find the plants outside the water tank. Because it contained extraterrestrial genes, Feng Zhao wouldn't compare it to a native sea slug. Shaking his head, Feng Zhao continued to watch the videos. After its first leaf-nibbling session, this rabbit seemed to know that there was no danger in its surroundings and that there were no other life forms that could threaten or disturb it. After a period of time, when its body turned back from green to white, it would come out again to nibble on the leaves. When the potted plant on the table was a layer shorter, it set its sights on the other potted plants in the study. Other than the 3 potted plants that hadn't blossomed, there were other potted plants that had been nibbled on. 2 of the potted plants were placed on the ground a little further away. It had even left the water tank for a short period of time. Fang Zhao's eyes narrowed as he watched the hybrid sea slug open and close the water tank's lid in a practiced manner. It seemed like the water tank's lid would have to be locked in the future. He moved out the few potted plants that had been gnawed short and replaced them with other plants that were growing well. Then, he left a message for the mixed-blood sea slug's breeder before putting it aside for the time being. After handing over the work at Silver Wing, Fang Zhao gave Yin Biao and Zuyu time off so that they could spend more time with their families. After all, they had been away for so long. After settling matters, Fang Zhao brought Curly Hair with him and quietly headed to Yinbei City to visit great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fang. Yinbei Retirement Facility. Great-grandfather Fang had a visitor today. It was a junior that he had guided before he had retired. This junior was doing well now. He had been transferred out for 5 or 6 years and had been promoted to the position of deputy director of a certain bureau on a continent level. This time, he had returned to Yinbei City to visit relatives and had specially come to visit great-grandfather Fang, the old leader. Those who had worked under great-grandfather Fang in the past all knew that this old man really liked to guide the younger generation. Unfortunately, none of his children or grandchildren had achieved great things. Instead, those who weren't blood-related were all rising rapidly. Quite a few even had a higher rank than great-grandfather Fang before he had retired. Little Wei, I'm happy to see all of you rise up one by one. All of you are doing very well. Great-grandfather Fang walked in the courtyard of the retirement facility with a walking stick in his hand. He walked slowly along the stone-paved path, step by step. There was an uphill slope ahead. This deputy director, who was addressed as Little Wei, hurriedly stepped forward to support great-grandfather Fang. If you hadn't given me a hand back then, I wouldn't have been able to climb to my current position. Deputy Director Wei was also deeply moved. He had been transferred out for 5 or 6 years and hadn't returned. Now that he had the time to come back, he felt a little sad to see his old leader. Before he had been transferred, although great-grandfather Fang was old and had a head full of silver hair, his health had still been very good. After 5 or 6 years, he had even used a walking stick and walked slowly. His legs didn't seem to have any strength. The old leader had really gotten old. As the two of them spoke, great-grandfather Fang's footsteps suddenly stopped. Deputy Director Wei followed great-grandfather Fang's gaze and looked over. Not far away, there was a retired old cadre with a young man beside him. This young man looked somewhat familiar. He seemed to be a rising political star in Yinbei City. He had even given an important speech 2 days ago. The old man and the young man were chatting happily. At some point, the old cadre laughed heartily. Deputy Director Wei glanced at great-grandfather Fang. The old man's eyes were indeed filled with envy. How envious, great-grandfather Fang whispered. Deputy Director Wei sighed in his heart. The old leader was still unhappy that the younger generation of the Fang family didn't have outstanding talents. He regretted that he didn't have a satisfactory successor. In the past, there had been people who had mocked great-grandfather Fang. He had guided so many people, but in the end, none of them had been promoted. Deputy Director Wei remembered that the last time he had visited the old leader, he had sounded depressed and unresigned. But now 5 or 6 years had passed, and the old leader seemed to have thought things through. He no longer had that unhappiness and was even in the mood to go farming with his wife. As he thought about this, Deputy Director Wei comforted the old man. There are a few people in your family who aren't bad. Compared to most people, they are already doing very well. Great-grandfather Fang laughed. Don't flatter them. Compared to ordinary people, of course they are doing well, but compared to people in the same system, they can only be considered passable. They can't even compare to you. The resources I give them are no less than yours. If they can't get promoted, it might be because they don't have the ability or the ambition. The Fang family had people in the military and in politics, but they weren't considered outstanding. At the beginning, great-grandfather Fang would help them, but later on, it was up to each person. I can't always support them. Their own path, their own future, they have to rely on themselves. Great-grandfather Fang sighed. Now that I've retired, it's even more impossible for me to accompany them. The younger generation has their own fortune. I'm old. and I don't want to worry so much. I might as well rent out a plot of land behind the retirement facility with my wife and plant some vegetables for fun. Speaking of the land behind the retirement facility, great-grandfather Fong's interest was piqued. The land there was limited and couldn't be compared to the farmland in Muzhou. It was completely for the old cadres in the retirement facility to plant for fun and to pass time. Hearing that the old leader didn't sound depressed, Deputy Director Wei also laughed. That's pretty good. When the younger generation comes over, they can even pick some vegetables from their own fields to eat. Who knew that when great-grandfather Fong heard this, he would say, "No, I rented a small piece of land and kept it for myself. I didn't give it to them, not for anyone." As he said this, the old man and the young man approached. The old cadre looked at great-grandfather Fong in astonishment. "Hey, old Fong, I saw your family's little Zhao just now. He was heading over to your house, carrying a large suitcase. I thought you had gone home. Didn't expect you to be walking around outside." Great-grandfather Fong was stunned. "What? My family's little Zhao is back? That old lady must have known all along. She actually didn't tell me." Following which, he was ecstatic. "My family's little Zhao is back." Knowing that Fong Zhao had already arrived, great-grandfather Fong couldn't stay any longer. He turned around to leave and even said to a certain deputy bureau chief beside him, "Little Wei, let's chat when we get back. If you have something to do, go ahead. I've received your kind intentions, and I'm very grateful that you still remember this old man. I wish you all the best for your continued advancement, for your grand plans, and for your meteoric rise. My family's little Zhao is here to see me, so I'll head back first." "Oh, right. Do you know my family's little Zhao? You should have seen Founding Era, right? He plays the role of Fong Zhao in the movie." A certain deputy bureau chief. This turn of events was too sudden. He suddenly felt a little dazed. Watching as the old leader walked back, there was still a flight of steps in front of him. Just as he was about to step forward to help the old leader, he saw the old leader lift his leg and jump. Then, as if he was flying, he jogged away. A certain deputy bureau chief. However, great-grandfather Fong didn't run far before he bumped into Fong Zhao. "Ha, little Zhao is back. Good, good, good. Looks like you've lost some weight. Filming is tough. Isn't it tough? How is it not tough? Don't lie to me. I know all about it. I check the news every day.